And we are back.
We are back, Bumble Bitches.
Doing the Patreon live
recording of episode.
I honestly don't know what this is.
Oh, no, we're doing Friday content.
Yep.
I have fumbled the ball, coach.
This is going to be a recording where I have my phone in my hand quite a bit. Yesterday, the conversation popped up of what it means to be a biblically submissive woman in our Discord. Mm-hmm. And I have...
Oh, I meant to respond to that.
Well, you're going to.
Fantastic. Well, I'm doing it live instead of in the chat.
Yep. What are you doing, little sausage dog?
Oh, she wants some love-ins.
Oh, I didn't hurt you.
She's like, I don't like that.
I didn't hurt you. Look, guys, I have a lap dog, too. This is Lilo's 15 minutes of fame. Sorry about the yip. You didn't like that, did you? I won't do that. Next time I'll pick you up by your belly.
Yeah, more comfy.
Yep. This dog is obsessed with me, guys.
Little D battery running around.
She does look like a D battery with a head.
And a Ritz cracker color.
Yep. She is also a ginger.
Yeah.
We have all the crackers in this house.
Yeah. You do.
So we're going to be reading questions from the thread that was created in the Discord. But before we get into that, I have something else I want to get into that hit my TikTok this morning.
Oh, gosh. Okay, there's so much.
There's going to be a lot of me holding my phone today. So I apologize for those guys while you're watching. This is not my dog, guys. This is Carrie's dog. Dakota is sourcing a dog for me right now. And after he did so good with Ivy, I feel like he needs to find a dog for me.
Yeah, you should do good pups.
Okay, so the first question... You just getting your 15 minutes of fame? This is so relaxing.
Isn't it?
The first thing that I wanted to touch on said off topic.
Okay.
When honey-do lists come up, why do I always feel pushback? And what I'm asking is a burden. I hired someone recently to do them, only to be met with pushback from my husband. What is your answer to that?
Okay, so I have to break that down a little bit. So honey-do lists.
Yep.
She creates them, but there's pushback on the honey-do list from the husband.
Yep.
So since the husband is not doing the honey-do list for whatever reasons he has, she has decided to hire somebody because it still needs to be done.
She's getting pushback.
And now he feels emasculated.
Well, she didn't say that.
That's how I'm perceiving it.
Okay, so that, again, I'm going to read it one more time. Off topic.
Pushback.
I
know he said pushback.
When the honey-do list comes up, why do I always feel pushback? And what I'm asking is a burden. I hired someone recently to do them, only to be met with pushback from my husband. Why do you think that is?
I don't know why I think that is. There could be a plethora of things. It could be your approach. It could be you're hitting him with it right as he walks in the door, getting home from work, and he hasn't had time to decompress. It could be you're nagging versus, hey, babe, this hasn't gotten done yet. Do you think you can make time this weekend? What if we knocked it out together? We make it a little fun time, right? Approach it differently. It could be he doesn't care. Every time I listen to Dr. John Deloney's show, I want to do live calls like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would make it so much easier.
It would make it a lot easier. So my response to her was, it would depend on the conversation. And I would need to see that interaction because it could be tone. It could be tone. It could be inflection. It could be that you're making demands instead of letting him serve you.
Right.
And as for hiring somebody, if you didn't talk about hiring someone to come do something that I'm capable of doing, of course there's going to be pushback.
I view that as a silent fuck you.
I do too.
And the reason I view that as a silent fuck you is because that's how I would do it. I've asked you so many times, I'm just going to handle it myself. I'm going to hire somebody. I would let you know, hey, plumber's going to be here Thursday at 3 p.m. But I wouldn't consult with you about hiring somebody. That would be the silent fuck you.
That would start so many fights.
Yeah.
That would be.
That's why I don't do it.
Right. But so for people who do shit like that, you are removing half of the equation.
Right.
It should be a conversation like, hey, I've asked you a bunch of times to get this done. I know it's not a high priority for you. Are you cool with me just hiring somebody to come take care of it?
Right.
Because at that point, it's letting them know it's a priority to you that it gets done, even though it's not a priority to me that it gets done. Stinky breath.
She need to be breathing the other way. That is too much. That's what I imagine Shrek's breath smells like.
So in a situation like that, because I actually want this clipped and put on TikTok. This comes down to allowing your person to serve you.
Yes.
Love makes requests, not demands. If you're like, hey, you need to fix blah, 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 that's a demand.
I can't believe I've had to remind you for the 5th time, babe.
Also a demand, a shitty demand.
Right.
Because now you're a superior. I've had to ask you, or I've told you, or whatever.
I shouldn't have to.
It's all superiority. We're no longer equals if you're making demands of me. If you're making requests and allowing me to serve you, it's coming from a place of love.
Right.
If you're making demands and I feel like I have to do something because you told me to fucking do it, I'm now a child.
Right.
This is where the whole mothering thing comes into play. This entire situation for me comes down to I'm willing to bet that there is a demand being made when she's asking,
Right.
or she's asking for shit that isn't important and he's prioritizing things down a list that he views as a priority. We had a conversation once.
Hang on, pause. Are you going to forget that?
Probably.
Okay, keep going.
We had a conversation once about the somebody saying that there was company coming over and she asked her husband to do something and he mowed the lawn and cleaned the garage.
Oh, I remember. And she said instead of setting up tables or
Right.
helping with food.
And he should fucking know better.
Right.
Well, this comes down to priorities. My job is making sure that my areas are taken care of. The yard is clean, blue jobs. I wouldn't have gone to I need to set the table unless you specifically said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get these plates ready. Can you set the table for me, please, while I get this done? Now we're on the same wavelength.
Right.
We need to get the house in order.
Because that's not your typical duty.
I'm going to go do my typical duties. Yeah. Right. So the priority list matters. If I know I need to take care of the oil, make sure the fucking yard is cut, make sure there's parking in the driveway and that I have to move vehicles around and shit because we're going to have a bunch of people over and you're like, get the house ready. That's what I'm going to go do.
Right.
Because I know that that's what I'm supposed to be doing as a man.
Yeah.
But if I'm not able, if you meant go clean the bathroom, the guest bathroom.
Right.
You didn't fucking say that. You said get the house ready.
Well, you should just know.
Right. Well, that's your job.
Correct.
So why do I need to go do that when I have my own shit that I need to do? You should have specified.
Right.
I don't have time to do that. Can you take care of it for me? I got you.
Right.
Because now you're asking me to fill a request.
Yeah. I thought of a real life example for me, but perspective shift for a woman's.
Okay.
Right? You sent me to AutoZone.
I did?
You did.
When?
You needed something. It was oil, maybe? I don't know. I had you text it to me and I showed it to somebody.
I don't remember this.
It was a while ago.
Was it when Joey was here?
Yes.
Okay. We were probably in the garage fucking with something.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would make sense if you were already
Yeah,
out.
that's bringing things into focus. You guys asked for oil for one of the bikes or something?
Okay. We'll go with that.
You needed a certain something for lubricant, I think?
Oh, no. We needed the mineral oil for the brakes.
That's what it was, yes. Yep.
Which they didn't actually sell at AutoZone.
Right. But when I walked in there, the first thing I told the person I was talking to, my husband sent me here. I have no idea what I'm doing. That was it.
Yeah.
If you told me that I had to go take my car in for maintenance and you didn't tell me what maintenance it needed, I'm walking into a dealership. I'm like, here's my keys.
Yeah.
My husband told me to be here. Well, what does it need? My husband didn't tell me. Check the engine. Carburetor.
Your car doesn't have a carburetor.
Like, so in reverse, when you tell a man the house needs to be ready, my wife told me the house needs to be ready. I know how to mow the lawn.
Right.
I'm gonna go take care of the lawn. Last time I sat at the table, she yelled at me. Sorry, I hiccuped at the same time.
Yeah. So those things come down to clear needs being specified in a way that allows us to serve versus making demands.
Right.
Nobody wants to be a slave. And if you are living in a situation like if I came in the house and was like, babe, you need to do the dishes. You need to fucking do laundry, clean the table. Fucking cat boxes are dirty. We don't have cats, but
No, we don't.
I started barking orders at you, and this is absolutely going to fall into the submission thing. And I started barking orders at you. Are you going to view yourself as my wife or a subservient fucking slave that has to do things?
We got problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Down.
Good girl.
Her head was in blocking yours on the camera.
She jumped at that down. She was like, word. Comfy. She did that the same way I do when I get comfortable on the couch next to you and I just plop. That wouldn't fly well with me.
Right.
You talking to me that way? You just picked up the laundry basket and I immediately feel like, and this is a trauma response in me, but I feel like I need to put up my defenses. Like, you think I'm a slob right now? Why are you doing the laundry? This is my domain.
Right. But there's a difference between you doing what what we've laid out as your duties.
Yeah.
And me demanding that you do those things.
No, I meant that as a perspective, as that's how I take that when you're just helping around the household to be helpful.
Right.
Imagine you speaking to me that way. Yeah. I'd have a full meltdown. I wasn't trying to compare the situations. I was trying to
explain,
give perspective of the Harley Quinn I would be.
Right. That idea of making your partner a honey-do list by itself is a list of demands.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. Like, if I came in and you physically handed me a list of shit that you needed me to do, I'd be like, what is this?
Right.
Why is there a fucking list? Why didn't you tell me that the toilet seat lid needed to be replaced when you noticed it needed to be replaced, instead of waiting until now there's a hole in the wall, toilet lid seat, cabinet's fucking crooked, door needs to be adjusted, car oil needs to be changed, I need oil, there's a fucking tire losing air pressure, and the yard needs to be done. Right. I have one day off. I have to do all of this now, and I don't get my day off anymore. Like, why didn't you tell me these things as they were coming up so that I can just take care of them throughout the week? Because what would have been a 5-minute job or a 1-hour job is now my entire fucking day, because you gave me a list of work that I need to do in our house. If you wanted a new set of plates because one of them chipped.
Oh, that's actually something I'm thinking about.
And you wanted a whole new set.
Okay.
And you were like, I want a new set of plates. This is what I'm looking at. It's $150 for a 24-piece porcelain, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If you came to me with a list that had new plates, new glasses, new silverware, dehydrator.
Oh, like my Amazon shopping list?
Bread thing, fucking new whisks, brownie pans, fucking parchment paper, and the grocery list. And now it's $1,300 for all of this shit. Which one of those do you think is more likely to get adhered to?
I hit you with that $1,300. You'll be like, what the fuck, babe?
Right. You tell me when you need something, not when there's a fucking list of 100 things that needs to be accomplished.
Right.
This is common sense shit. But people,
it's also overwhelming.
It fucking right it is.
Yeah.
And it's expensive.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
You were moving your hands a lot. So I smirked at some point in between all of that. And it's because I recognized you were moving your hands and she thought it was playtime with dad.
Yeah.
That's why she was getting antsy.
As soon as my back gets better,
yeah,
I want to do some of the training commands with her. He sent me videos last night of how we can do that without having to wear the arm sleeve, because he doesn't want her to aggressively come at me.
Right.
But he showed me how to make that work too. So they focus on the person and then pull the sleeve out and then let them have it. And her sleeve is the house. So all that shit came.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So moving on. Let's get to the Discord.
Okay. I need to adjust myself. My ankle's acting up again, but it's a different pain. It was on fire yesterday.
Holy shit, there's a lot in here.
Oh.
It was on fire yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday when I called for my ankle brace, it felt like someone was holding like a searing cast iron on the muscle of my ankle. I hope the pain's not evolving, because I really just kind of healed
Will
from
you put her
Ivy, place
on her bed?
Good girl, baby.
All that spinning around and sniffing, if she knocks the camera over, it's gonna be a bad day. There's a whole lot here now. Okay, I need a second to find.
Okay, so while you're doing that, I'm going to interact with Patreon a little bit. Bree Ball asked, would you view that the same with the vehicle? Telling the husband your car needs checked, but gets put on the back burner for weeks/2 months.
That's a safety issue.
That is a safety issue.
But it depends on what needs to be checked. If you're out of wiper fluid,
right,
that's different than your brakes aren't working.
Yeah.
So that matters.
Or the engine sputtering on the interstate.
Right. So there's levels to your vehicle.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be this way with you because you're my husband and we have conversations about things. So in this scenario, I'm married to a different man, right? And this man is somebody who doesn't take things seriously. And say that I'm having issues with my brakes. And it is going on week 3 and the issues are getting worse. And you don't care that the family is now at risk of injury on the interstate or just putzing around the town. My life inconveniences are now going to become your life inconveniences. I'm now driving your car and you're driving this van or whatever the issue is. I'm like full boss woman taking over the situation. In a graceful way, though. I would mother that man.
Well, that speaks to you having a man that's not capable of leading and
Right.
leadership, and that's going to tie into the submission conversation that we're about to have.
Oh, fantastic.
But let me ask you this. What about the
Okay.
men who also let their vehicles go? And they go until the point that they no longer need brakes. They need new rotors and brakes. And what would have been a $300 fucking job is now a $2,500 job because you have to replace 4 rotors, 4 brakes, calipers, all of that shit's rotted because things weren't done when the screamer started going on the brake pads.
It's not a leader. It's not a protector. That I don't view that as husband material.
Okay.
I still view that as a boy who's like procrastinating.
Right. It is procrastination.
Like a 14-year-old, I want to do my homework right now.
But that procrastination could actually get you killed.
Right.
And it could harm other people.
Yeah. And the disregard to safety in that is a massive red flag to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, where's the value in life at that point? If you don't care that your brakes can go out and kill your family or possibly kill other people.
Well, that speaks on the fucking... It won't happen to me. That happens to other people. That's
Delusional.
the mindset that a lot of people have. Until somebody's actually had a situation
Okay.
where their brakes have actually failed and they have that fear, they're not going to take that shit serious because their brakes have always worked until this point.
Yeah. I'm going to say this in a way that the TikTok people will understand. That's Delulu. Sparkles.
Why sparkles?
Because usually they put the little sparkle, Delulu, sparkle.
Oh.
I should probably have pocket glitter for this. Confetti is easier to clean up and that won't bother you as much. I'll just tint it to look glittery. I'm into arts and crafts. I want to get into arts and crafts, yeah. I want to be so extra with my things.
So to the conversation so that Carrie doesn't have to cut 45 minutes of crafts talk.
Okay.
The question was, and on episode 23, I think is what they said specifically, you said that you are not just a submissive housewife, you are a biblically submissive housewife. Mm-hmm. And they wanted you to elaborate on it. That was the original question, is can you elaborate on that?
Okay.
And then for about 4 hours, there was conversations of what this looks like between everybody in the ball pit.
Yeah.
And I asked for a specific thread of questions. And I have a specific one I want to start with.
Okay.
And then I'm going to randomly pick because there's a lot more here than I expected. But can you explain the difference to you between a submissive housewife and a biblically submissive housewife?
Having faith. I was submissive to you before I had my faith. And that played into you being the leader of the household. I picked a good man to be my husband. So I have full faith in your decision making. I know you're not going to make a decision that's going to ruin our family or put us in financial turmoil or put me in, I'm having multiple thoughts at once. Let me reel this in. I know you're not going to put me or the children in harm's way. You're not going to do something rambunctious or Mad Max that could put you in harm's way and ruin what we have in the future. So none of that was a concern for me when I decided to be a submissive housewife to you. That housewife wasn't part of that. It was just submissive wife, right? Okay. I don't want to add words to it.
No, I actually think that it did say submissive housewife.
Did it?
Maybe.
Okay.
I could go back and search for it, but I'm not going to.
So when I think of a submissive wife, I know that I'm an emotional creature. And I'm aware that I have borderline. I'm aware that I have mental illnesses that affect my logical brain thinking. So
I found it.
Okay.
It was episode 23. You stated that you are not just a housewife now, that you are a submissive housewife, then puts emphasis on saying biblically submissive. And I'm curious to hear what they both consider the difference to be in a housewife and a submissive housewife. And I'm not under the impression that they mean DS submissive in this conversation, which is also important.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So the train of thought that I had before is gone.
Sorry.
Is this season 1, episode 23 that we talk about this?
Yeah, it was early on.
So that was almost a year ago. Or was it
over a year ago.
It was over a year ago. I do not remember the context of that conversation. And I have grown a lot in the last year. So a year ago, Peaches saying that probably had a different thought process than I have it now.
Okay. So then elaborate on what you have now.
So I just don't want anyone to go, oh, she's lying or she's changing what she said. That's growth.
It's growth, right? God, I fucking hate that so much. I hate that shit so much.
Right.
Oh my God, well, you once said this. Yeah, well, I have new information now, dumbass.
I am also still very infantile in my understanding of the Bible. I'm doing a Bible study with my women's group right now. I do breakdowns on YouTube, watching people with a vast knowledge of the Bible, far exceeding what I know, doing breakdowns of their understandings and whatnot. So if you're looking for very wisdomized, biblical understanding of a submissive housewife, I'm not it. Okay. Disclaimer, I suppose. So what's the difference in my views from being a housewife to a submissive housewife to a biblically submissive housewife?
Yes.
All right. Ooh, I wish I had a PowerPoint.
Presentation?
Yeah. No, not a presentation. Active board. I think those are in schools. Maybe they've moved on from that, but I could draw on it.
A whiteboard?
Right, but it was digital, and I like the digital look
whiteboard.
of it. Yeah, it's a digital whiteboard. Called an active board.
Okay.
Because I don't know, stupid names. So let's just start with housewife, okay? Are we doing a stay-at-home housewife? Or just housewife who's working? Because those are two very different realms.
Okay.
And I don't think that not getting into that yet, I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't think a stay-at-home housewife has the same duties as a working housewife.
Okay.
Do you want me to elaborate on both?
I would, yes.
Okay.
It's not a me thing, it's a them thing.
Okay.
Okay, so the difference between a housewife that's working
and non-working
and a stay-at-home.
Okay. And let's add an infant to the situation. Just a single baby. We're going to start with the stay-at-home housewife with a single baby. I would view that as a more traditional setting.
This would have been a great time for us to have a race to see who could eat the fastest.
Big ass mouth over there, just inhaling it.
I got to have a big mouth. You got a big booty.
It's like puzzle pieces.
It's the perfect fit.
That was so romantic for me. Like, I know some people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe Amanda said that. That's like true Romeo and Juliet shit for me. Doesn't make me white trash.
We are.
Yeah. That was really sweet. Thank you. Thank you for saying that about my butt.
I will interact with the chat. How's everybody's morning going?
Laugh my ass off. Was that Carrie laughing in the back? It was.
Yep. D&D is also happening tomorrow. Absolutely. We are fucking stoked. We get to play D&D tonight.
Yes.
And she was like, this morning, she said, D&D's tonight, right? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, I can't fucking wait to kill people. I'm like, whoa. Slow down. You've already got 104 body count. Like, ease the fuck up.
It's even better than I'm a 3-foot fairy.
Yeah. I've really thought about bringing a camera home and recording our at-home sessions, but I feel like it's weird trying to put all of our friends on camera. Like, it's just not okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing for our life to be that way. It's another for others.
Yeah, I feel like it's imposing.
Yeah.
I feel like it's imposing. And I feel like it's, I don't know. If I walked into someone's home and they're like, all right, we're recording, everyone, you're on camera.
Right.
I'm fucking leaving.
Yeah. I've been hyper fixated on it, binging Critical Role in the meantime. I got to be honest, I think we're better than Critical Role. And that's pure ego, and I understand that. But
put that in the bag, please.
But we're not, thank you for sliding that over and not making me reach. The Critical Role thing is very storytelling based. They're very voice actor in the character. I know that apparently it's not actually scripted, even though I believed it was. Apparently Matt Mercer has come out and said that it's not scripted. But I know that they have conversations about important things in the game happening before it does.
Yeah.
And there are things that are scripted in there. There's no way that they didn't script Sam's character doing what Sam's character did in the current game if they didn't know he had throat cancer and was going to be gone for 6 months. right? So like,
Right.
but ours is not story based. The
It's
story is going to
chaos.
happen one way or the other, whether you guys interact with it or not, because there is
Yeah.
a world happening. And if you guys go and do something else, we can absolutely make whatever adventure you go on, go do that thing. But at some point, what's happening is going to happen with or without you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And if it does, what's going to happen then? So like, I don't fucking know, because it's your story. I've
Yeah.
created the world. Beyond that, I'm just there to make dice rolls.
Mm-hmm.
So, and explain situations. And I think that's a lot more fun for players than to be told what to do and
Yeah.
what you have to do in a story. And I just want to paint the picture and then let you guys play in it. Go hard in the paint.
I mean, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying both campaigns for different reasons. In playing Nissa, the little chaotic fairy, I've decided I'm just gonna Harley Quinn her.
Yeah.
She's just gonna be a harbinger of chaos, and there's gonna be just chaotic neutral. There's gonna be no rhyme or reason for it. She got a taste of it, and now it's. And then with Elith, she is a very level-headed, methodical, understanding the meaning of life and death, and that this is just a transitional period, and has no problems doling out justice because of her understanding in life and death and the beyond to those who take for granted life like grapists.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Batman. I'm having fun.
I'm glad.
I'm enjoying the worlds. Yes.
I enjoy Friday night more than Saturday night because I get to play.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so let's get back to what we were talking about.
Okay, we're back into it. Okay, so a housewife, stay at home, infant baby, husband works. I view that, the stay at home mom, housewife with the husband working, more traditional than any other, like a modern traditional, than any other version of modern relationship.
Okay.
And I say modern traditional because if she's door dashing every day and doesn't cook at home, or maybe they've hired a cook or they've hired a maid, I view that as a modern traditional, right? If she is cooking, she is cleaning, making things from scratch, right? DoorDash happens, going out to eat happens, conveniences are conveniences, and sometimes we need a break. So I'm not nixing that from the traditional aspect of it. So more often than not, home cooking, cleaning by herself, getting help when asked, hey, babe, I need help with the laundry. Can you please just knock out the laundry today? The baby was too much. I've done the dishes 8 times and I've been pooped on twice. I just don't want to look at the laundry right now.
That's a request.
It is a request.
That falls into what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I view that as an act of submission. Babe, I need your help.
Wait, you view asking as an act of submission or me doing it as an act of submission?
Both.
Okay, that's going to tie into some of these questions, but can you elaborate on that before moving on?
So I don't need your help. I want your help. And me wanting your help gives you the opportunity to be a man. So I could just be frustrated and get everything done in a rush of anger and then feel good that I got it all done by myself and now I can relax. Or I can go to my man and be vulnerable, be open, and submit to the opportunity for you to be my man.
Okay.
That's how I view that. Does that make sense?
It does. Well, to
Okay.
me, it does. I mean, if it doesn't to other people, well, I'm sure we'll hear about it in the comments. While you're pondering that thought, I'm going to add
Okay.
that's allowing us to be the hero in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Men no longer slay dragons and win the damsel.
No.
Sometimes that slaying the dragon looks like changing a shitty diaper or doing the dishes or the laundry.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that you need me to help you, it's not really a need, it's a want. But in my head, like, damn, she's had a long ass day. I need to go take care of this to make her fucking day easier. It is a need. And I'm able to fulfill that need. It's like me putting my sword away. I get to be that. And when you look at life that way, it changes the way that you operate. The fuck was that?
There was something happening in my ear because I turned my head and I nodded to you, and it felt like there was an air bubble trapped. So I turned my head this way, and I nodded to see if it would happen again, and it didn't. So I went back to the original position and nodded.
And made a face. Carrie, when you edit this, we need to zoom in on that. You can put it right here. And then I'll show you how to do that when you edit.
I'm so glad you're getting learning opportunities, Carrie. I don't know. I felt like like how you have those sticks? I'm so not a handy woman. The stick that you put on top of things that has the bubble in it to make sure.
It's called a level. You use it to make sure things are level.
But I felt like my internal bubble wasn't right.
Okay.
So I was
I understand that.
calibrating.
She's not real, guys.
Oh gosh, I'm real. Just this organic computer. I'm tired of it. There's so many malfunctions. My back hurts all the time. I'm always cold. I'm going to be that grandma with 1,000 blankets on me all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to where we were.
Yes. Did I interrupt you with my calibration?
At this point, I don't remember where we were at. So I think I got my point across either way. So
I feel like the face that I made was the kombucha girl. Because that's what I was thinking. When I tilted my head and did the thing again, it was the kombucha girl face.
I don't know what that is.
No. Carrie could find it.
I'm sure.
That's also something she could put next to the screen, maybe, if it's the same face.
That might be a content violation.
Oh, would it? That would
Depends
suck.
on how long it is.
No, it's just a photo.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a meme from back in the day. In the old west of the internet, yeah. All right. So you were just talking about how it allows you to be the knight in shining armor. Leader of the household. No, I've deviated too far. I'm into the submissiveness. We need to go back to the housewife. Okay, so just a housewife. When I was talking about earlier with the requests, the submissiveness, I would like to think that's part of being a housewife, but people don't like that term, the submissive housewife. So I'm going to tack that into submissive housewife and just go to housewife, go back to housewife. I bled a little bit too far into the lines. So just housewife is someone who cooks, cleans. Probably is a little bit combative about things. Kind of wants to be the decision maker. Feels like they have the right to be the decision maker maybe because they're the stay at home and they know what's going on in the house. Yeah, when I think of just housewife, I think of the more negative attributes when I think of a housewife. Combative, argues with their husband, probably uses sex as a weapon. Is a little bit resentful towards their duties as a housewife.
I'm listening.
I don't know. I don't want to keep talking because seeing you in pain and I just keep living life like it's normal feels like I'm violating
you should do that
something.
anyways, though, because I'm not going to be on camera when this gets edited.
Okay. So now let's think of a working housewife, right? Still removing the submissiveness of it. So when I think of a submissive housewife, I think of a more pleasant housewife. Minus just housewife.
Okay.
Okay, those are two different categories for me. I really want to stress that. Because if you don't feel like you're just the housewife that I'm describing, then this doesn't apply to you. You would fall underneath the category of the submissive housewife, and you're just taking it personally for whatever connotation you have on submissive. So the working housewife is a lot more stressed than just the housewife. Right? I've done that, being the homemaker and the worker, the breadwinner, the mother, all of it. And that was the lowest of my mental state I've ever been. I hate my life. I hate going to work. I hate coming home. I can't enjoy my time with the children because they're just crying all the time. I'm at work. I can't have any quality time with the kids. The only time they get to see me is when I'm stressed out about work, or I'm stressed out about things at home, or I'm stressed out about finances. They weren't getting a true version of me because I was spread so thin, I didn't know who I was anymore. I was just this human being who was working like a robot to make sure life didn't fall apart. I was combative. I was angry. I was resentful. I was short-tempered. I did not take enjoyment in the little things in life like I do now. I was a different person because of the amount of stress that I was under.
Before you move on, you know that there are a whole lot of men out there who have women who are like that, even though they may not be a stay-at-home wife or homemaker or whatever you want to call that, that has to deal with the fact that they hate their job and they never see their kids and they're not really present in the home because when they are, there's always something to do, the honey-do list, the kids, the homework, the baths, whatever. And on top of that, have to deal with a woman who has a fucking attitude all the time, and doesn't genuinely enjoy her life, and then wonders why they are such a disconnect in the relationship.
Right. It's because she's disconnected. I think that there is a lot of power in the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And I say that and people go, oh, hocus pocus, Gatorade Mars, whatever. I am saying that as a woman who has found faith. And I recognize that there is energy in the world, right? I stopped speaking so that the next clip would just be me without it in my face.
Okay.
And with recognizing that there's energies in the world, right? I believe in my gut feeling, right? But I also have come to the understanding that I need to separate my human anxiety from my spiritual gut feeling. Because boy, is that human anxiety a bitch. Catastrophizing everything. I said that word wrong. Catastrophizing?
I don't even think that's a word, but...
Catastrophe.
Turning everything into a catastrophe?
Yeah.
7th grade education, I got no idea.
Did I just make up a word?
Maybe. Speechism.
Okay. I got focused on the word. What was I saying before that?
You've lost me now, too.
Fuck, Carrie, help.
that you catastrophize everything.
Catastrophize?
Yeah.
Catastrophize.
Yeah, that's something along those lines.
But why did I do that?
Because of anxiety.
Oh, because of anxiety, separating it from my... Fantastic. Takes 3 autistic people to get back on track. Here we go. Choo choo. All right. Oh gosh, there's so much into this now for me. I really have gotten into like the Socrates of myself and just sit down and think a lot about human existence and what it means to be alive. And my perspective of life and being in the human experience is that I am a spiritual being, right? I was energy, because energy cannot be made or destroyed, right? I am energy that came into a different form. And I'm here to experience all of this for a particular reason, because when I go on to my next energy form, because my death is not going to be my destruction, I have to be prepared for whatever comes next, right? And it's going to be another journey of learning things and elaborating and coming to another higher understanding of things. In my perspective, I'm not speaking on definites because I don't know, but I like to think that. And in being this energy form in the human experience, I come with a different energy in my soul than a man does. And in my divine feminine, I am calm. I am tranquil. Right? My human emotions like the anger and the frustration and the overstimulated and the overwhelmed and the lights are too bright and I can hear the lawnmowers right now are just inconveniences on my actual soul. Does that make sense? And I don't remember why I got onto this topic.
Because you were going on and on and on about the divine male and feminine, masculine and feminine.
Well, I wasn't going on and on about it. I was going somewhere with it.
Right, but that's what you were doing. Like you started with, you just went on a whole fucking escapade of your own just now. I was sitting here listening going, okay, how does this tie into Submissive Housewife? Like what is happening? Because we
that's why
so
I asked
far
what
off
was I
the
talking
rails.
about before. Because it ties in for a reason. I just don't remember the reason.
Because you went way the fuck off the rails.
It's not way off the rails because I was saying it for a reason, babe.
You were saying that We were talking about anxiety, and then you were talking about the divine masculine and
Right,
feminine.
but before that, I was talking about anxiety for a reason.
Yeah.
And then we
been
got
too long, I
sidetracked
don't
with
remember.
things.
I'm trying to stay current as to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So what we were talking about then compared to what we're talking about now, like it's just not there for me.
Right. My thoughts don't follow a structure.
No.
So
Mine don't either.
I'm sorry
but
if that's not the answer you're expecting.
Why are you apologizing?
Because I feel like you're frustrated or something. I could tell that you were
I'm in a
like
lot of
waiting
fucking-
for me to get to the point.
I'm in a lot of fucking pain right now.
Yeah.
Like it hurts to sit here. But I'm trying to pay attention to what you're talking about so that we can have the conversation that we're supposed to be having. And I didn't understand why you were going on and on about the divine and like your energy transference and what you'll become in the next life and all of that, because I don't understand how that's relevant to being a submissive housewife. But I was waiting on you to get to where you were trying to go so that it could tie in, and then I would understand. But because I was listening to what you were saying and you were saying it, we're not going to get to that point because we both forgot what the fuck we were talking about.
Okay.
Because that happens. This is not something that you need to be sorry about.
No, I'm just trying to figure out where I was going with all of it.
Okay. You were talking about working housewives getting overwhelmed and then started talking about separating human anxiety from spiritual gut feelings. Fucking chat's on it.
We were talking about the stresses that a working mom and a homemaker feels. So when I think of a submissive housewife, the difference between just a regular housewife, right, working or non-working, homemaker, however you want to phrase that, and a submissive one is the understanding that all life inconveniences are just that, inconveniences. So the submission comes into trusting the person that you're with. So if you married somebody you can't trust, you can't be pissed off that you can't be submissive with them. You chose the person you married.
I think that's a really important thing to remember.
The person you marry is the most important decision you'll ever make in your life.
We've said that a lot on the podcast.
Part of that submission for me is understanding that my energy has a massive impact on everything around me. And in times where I want to be combative or what the fuck did you just say? Who do you think you're talking to? I recognize that that is my human emotions trying to cloud what I have going for me. I'm on some next level shit. Starting to smoke the stars at night.
On the divine masculine and feminine energy thing, I think it's important to recognize that we are supposed to be hunter-gatherers.
I think we're supposed to be, oh yeah, you speaking on
Our
men
job
specifically.
is to hunt, kill, and provide. It's in our DNA, 100,000 years of human existence. That's what we've been bred to do. And when there's time to go to war, it's our job to go to war. So knowing that that's our duty, why would a woman want to put herself in a position where she has to do that?
Right.
And normal feminists don't want to be in a position where they have to do that, which is why there's such a hoopla over the potential draft and the right to vote and all of the bullshit that's being argued right now on the internet. You want equal rights. Well, you're not willing to be drafted into a war, blah, 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 blah. Like that's a big hoopla right now. Why would you want to be put in a position where you're going to have to go and potentially die or kill something when you don't have to do that? Right. And I think that speaks to leadership and sacrifice and also what it means to submit, because in that, my divine masculine is submitting to your will to make sure that you're fed, to make sure the kids have what they need. And if something has to die, I got to be the one to kill it, even if I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So there's a submission in that as well. And I think that speaks to what we are at our core.
Yeah. And my submission, if you had to kill something, my submission would be gratefulness in that.
Right.
Is that the end of your thought?
Yeah, that's all I got.
Submission, when I think of a submissive housewife, I'm also thinking of the woman who holds her tongue when she wants to say something vicious.
I agree with that.
Yeah. There have been a few times over the last few days where I know you've been in pain and you've said something and my instinct reaction was the fuck. But the submission in me, knowing that my husband's in pain, knowing the situation of what's going on, you don't take shit personally. I view not taking things personally in a very abstract way a form of submission. Because you are submitting to the fact that you are not the center of anybody's universe besides your own. You can be a top priority in somebody else's, But like with my husband going through pain, I'm not the center of your universe. So with a submissive housewife, I take the curation of our home very seriously. Like right now, the last 2 years of our lives have been very chaotic and upheaved, and a lot of transitions have happened. Our whole house became a recording studio at one point.
Yeah. Multiple rooms.
And now the dust is finally settling, and I want to really make the house ours again. I have to take what you want into decoration and consideration, right? I have all of these ideas in my mind of things that I want to do, and you don't want plants in the house. So there is a form of submission there where you are going to allow me to do whatever I want within a certain parameter, because this is also your shared living space.
Okay, so let's talk about that then, because that's not how that works. This is why men want men caves.
What do you mean that's not how that works?
Because it's not how it works. I have a whiskey room.
Right.
That you have zero say in.
Right.
It's mine. The rest of the house is yours. I may not like the shit that you want to do with the house, but for the most part, I'm going to let you do it. Unless you wanted to make the living room pink or some shit. Like, I'm going to have a problem with that. But this is what marriage looks like for most relationships. The woman, that is your domain. The house is yours.
Right.
If I walked in the door and you're like, take your fucking shoes off, you're right, my bad. My shoes are coming off.
Okay.
Because you clean the house. You make the house a home.
Right.
So the idea of me having my own space would be my whiskey room or a man cave in the garage or a game room or something.
Right.
This is the reality for most men. Most men don't have a say of what goes on in the house because they want their woman to be happy. And if that means that there are towels hung up in the bathroom that nobody can fucking use because they're there for decoration,
right,
or there's plants everywhere, whether they like it or not, that's the reality of it. This is where the submission comes in, like you just said, because you understand that I'm not going to want to live in a situation like that.
Right.
And
I would be so happy in a humid jungle of a living room, and I know that that is not your vibe when you want to relax.
Right.
So
the more you make the house yours and the less that it becomes mine, the less I'm going to spend in the house that is ours.
Right.
So if the living room becomes this big fucking Pinterest looking living room that is solely the way you want it to be, and you can't make a fucking mess and you can't eat out there and you can only watch Bluey because the kids are out here right now and I don't get to enjoy the living room, I'm not going in the fucking living room anymore. And then when you come into the whiskey room, be like, I miss you. I'm like, yeah, I know. I miss you too. It sucks. What I'm really saying is you've ruined the fucking living room for me. The kids are in there watching Bluey and I don't want to exist in this fucking space. So what little bit of space I have for myself, I'm going to utilize. If you would like to come back out here and hang out with me because I also miss you, I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what happens long term when two people don't submit to what each other wants. And one goes, what I want matters because this is mine. Mm-hmm. And that selfishness kicks in.
Right.
It destroys. It creates division, complicates relationships. It fucks up communication. Mm-hmm. There becomes a sense of entitlement. Well, this is my house. Like, it becomes problematic.
It does.
So that's where I was going with that.
Okay.
Because that is very much a thing for a lot of fucking dudes. It's why that Justin Whalen guy is so popular, because one of the things that he says all the time is, fuck do you mean I get a man cave? I pay the fucking mortgage here. This is my house. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to decorate the house the way that I want. And if I want to watch football all day on Sunday in my living room on my television, I'm going to. I don't like that mindset, but I get it. If you are the man of the house and you're paying all the bills and you have a stay-at-home wife, and she's not taking your wants and needs into consideration, you don't have a partner. Mm-hmm. At that point, you are providing an existence for somebody else while you're fucking miserable.
Right.
And that's the difference between coexisting and thriving together.
Another form of submission that I think that falls into that category is when I cook a dinner. When I cook a dinner and you don't like it, you're allowed to say that. And okay, I'm not going to make that again. If I really like the meal, right? Like I really love meatloaf. You are not particularly a meatloaf fan. You'll eat it. I could eat meatloaf twice a week. You are not that kind of person. So that's more of a once a month kind of thing. And when I have it once a month, I make sure I make enough leftovers so I can eat it sporadically. I view that as a form of submission as well. Instead of, well, I'm the one who's cooking, you're just going to eat what I make. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
Because that's also a thing that a lot of men experience.
Right.
But this also speaks on what I've talked about in the past. It's all the way behind your plant.
I know.
I'm not getting up.
I'm getting it.
Okay.
So. Can you put the camera on him? My fanny's gonna be in the air.
This is one of those things where men will come home and eat whatever the fuck is made, not complain about it because we're grateful that you're cooking. And that matters, right? So this also falls into the willingness to submit, knowing that I may not like that. Like if you made pot roast,
Right.
I wouldn't eat dinner. I would go to bed hungry like a fucking child who just got in trouble because I'm not eating that. I don't care how long it took to cook in the crock pot and that it's filet mignon instead of bullshit steak. It tastes like watered vegetables to me and I'm not eating that. So because I hate it as much as I hate it and I refuse to eat it, you don't make it. So you know what I mean? And like you said with the meatloaf, I will eat meatloaf even though it's not my favorite thing, but you don't make it every single week because you know it's not my favorite thing. There has to be an ebb and flow.
Was that filet mignon personal? Or was that just a recent thing in your memory?
No, I love filet mignon, especially when you wrap it in bacon. It's my favorite cut of steak.
Right, but I made those steak tips with filet mignon for you.
It tasted like water to
Yeah.
me. It tasted like watered meat.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you cook in the crock pot, unless you put a fuck ton of flavoring in it, it's going to taste like watered down whatever is in there. I just don't like crock pot food. So it wasn't a personal thing. It was the most recent thing. And I shouldn't have had an issue with that because I love filet mignon. Like that's one of my favorite steak cuts. Again, especially wrapped in bacon.
So as somebody with borderline and a plethora of other mental things going on, it's dialed back a little bit. So I would say like 7 out of 10 times throughout the day, right? If the day is broken up into 10 categories, I'm down to 7 of those categories being high anxiety, worrying about things. It used to be a 10. So we've come down 3 notches with me working on myself and it's getting better. But internally, 70% of the time it's still a fucking massive hurricane, tornado, things are getting thrown around. And when something external happens, right? Say you're having a bad day or you're just having a bad day for whatever reason. And now your mental illnesses are kicking. I am your rock, right? And I am not saying to put aside feelings or your feelings don't matter. If I am internally having a hard day because my anxiety decided to focus on something from 15 years ago, is totally irrelevant to my husband just had to shell out $10,000 because a repair had to be made at one of the businesses. And now we have to figure out how we're going to make that up. That is a much more pertinent, we have to figure this out. Babe, what can I do to help you? What can I do to make you feel better? I know you're going through it right now. Versus, babe, my feelings are hurt because of something that happened 15 years ago. I view that as a form of submission of, okay, I'm going to put my own anxieties aside, my own mental illness, borderline running, whatever, and focus on the reality of situations versus the archive of memories. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I view that as a submission to the marriage.
You were putting the marriage first.
Yeah.
You're putting the right now over the past.
Okay.
But that also speaks to doing the work and not bringing baggage in.
Yeah.
But like we had a conversation this morning about something that you'd never heard of from me. And that though that obviously is a trauma thing for me, it's not been relevant until the conversation this morning, which is why it's never been brought up. So it's not been something that I've thought to work on, right? Those new triggers are going to develop. New things are going to come up that's going to make you feel something that you didn't work through. That's just normal shit.
Yeah.
So you do the work on what you can, and when those new things come up, you address it in the right time, not in the right now.
Right.
So prioritizing like your day matters. You want to get into these questions?
Yeah.
Because we're an hour in already. Where do you draw the line between...
Well, I didn't get into biblical.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, we can skip it.
Nope.
Am I talking too much?
No, this is the episode. If it's a 4-hour episode, it's a 4-hour episode. I may have to get up and take a break and stretch.
Okay.
But if that's what's got to happen, that's what's got to happen. So go ahead.
I don't know. When it comes down to the biblical aspect of it, it comes down to the faith. If you didn't have faith that all of this was for something, then you wouldn't care about anything.
What do you mean?
So this podcast is our legacy, right? Every day we wake up and we aim to be the best version of ourselves for each other. And I believe a lot of right? So say that faith is an ocean and there's a stream that funnels into the lake. The ocean, that ocean is the stream that's filling that lake for your drive of, I want to be a good man. I want to be an upstanding man. I've heard, I'm not going to say I know because I met you when you had your faith. It wasn't to the extent it is now, but you still had your faith. I have heard of you when you didn't have faith. And I don't know. The men that I do know now who don't have their faith are not the kind of man I would want to associate with. They don't have the morals about them. They digest corn constantly. It's more meme knowledge than actual life knowledge. There is no motivation there to be better at anything. Because what's the point? Life doesn't matter. I can just off myself tomorrow. Her. That's really hard for me to explain.
Right. Well, with what you just explained, I think it's important to recognize that there's a difference between somebody who actually has a relationship with God
Right.
and somebody who claims to have a religion.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Oh my gosh. Organized religion makes me uncomfortable.
It's man-made.
The more that I formulate my own relationship with my God, the more that I can see the manipulation in religion.
I think with the manipulation and religion conversation, it's important to recognize that we are flawed.
All of us.
So because we are flawed and we are not perfect the way that Christ was, or living the way that Christ intended, anytime we create something that is not given completely to God, we are going to have those kind of problems. And a lot of people, you can look at the King James Bible, if you even want to have that discussion, there's going to be an intent behind it and a motive behind it. It's why the Bible was used for slavery at one point. It has been throughout all of the centuries in every continent on the planet. It's why the Catholic Church at one point refused to translate the Bible into English because they didn't want people to be able to pray to God without going through the Catholic faith. It gave the
power.
Power, right? But that comes down to an imperfection of man. And when you look at it that way, you can have a good group of godly men that are still going to have flaws. This is why you need to have a relationship with God and have the faith that you have, so that if things aren't going the way they're supposed to be going, you have someone to talk to about it. You talk to God about it instead of going to the people that are fucking corrupt and letting them gaslight you or make you believe something you shouldn't. And it's also important that this is also why it's important to actually read your Bible and to understand it versus just letting somebody else tell you how the Bible's supposed to be. So this said, where do you draw the line between being submissive and being a pushover?
Where do I draw the line between being submissive and a pushover? When the tone gets disrespectful. I have a very short fuse for bullshit. Yeah, the tone could just get disrespectful. We don't talk to each other like that. Do you mean by actions?
That was the way it was worded. I don't know if she's watching or not.
Okay, so my first response is I wouldn't even let the tone get disrespectful.
Okay, so so it's based on respect.
Yeah, I would say it's based on respect.
Okay.
Within yourself and from your partner. Because if you don't respect yourself, you're willing to do anything for validation.
So then what's the difference between being a pushover and being submissive? Does this come down to a choice? This entire episode is more of a you episode than a me episode because it's about a submissive wife.
I think it's a choice on how you're willing to tolerate your husband speaking to you. Love makes requests, not demands.
I agree with that.
So if you're dating someone who says, bitch, make my dinner, and you're not into that the way that I'm into that.
I have yet to actually say that to you. Just to be clear, I don't talk to her like that when it comes to non-playtime, but
right.
I don't want people to think that I'm just demanding shit like that.
No, there's joking playtime and whatnot.
Yeah.
We can cut it or I can give context.
You can give context, and if we have to cut it, we will.
So I'll give context. I enjoy it when my husband calls me bitch and whatnot. So there are certainly times throughout the day where he's like, bitch, get my coffee cup. I'm like, yes, sir. Whatever the fuck you say. That's how that goes down.
Right.
So if it's not that way and he is aggressively saying, bitch, you are below me. You need to go make my dinner. You're going to get beat. That is not husband material. right? And that's kind of reading between the lines. You can understand aggression in tone. You can understand disrespect in tone. You can understand where they view you on the hierarchy of humanity, right? There are people out there who fully believe that women are, subculture is not the word, subspecies to the male gender. And that can be heard in the way that they talk about women, or how they talk to women, or what they think about women. Yeah. I think the way they verbalize their thoughts about women is a pretty indicative, it might be the word I'm looking for,
Good indicator
way
of the
to,
way they view things.
right. So if there is, my husband treats me as an equal. We make decisions together. There are decisions that he makes as the man of the household that I want nothing to do with. I don't want to make those decisions. And just like how he doesn't want to pick out what's for dinner, there are things that I don't want to think about that you deal with, business-wise, financial-wise, mortgage, life insurance. Thinking about all of that, I can feel my cortisol levels rising. That's too much.
So my opinion on this, for what it's worth, is that being submissive is a choice that you don't feel bad about.
Right.
Being a pushover is if you know that you're not okay with something and your husband insists knowing that you're not okay with it and continues to push and you cave to people please. That's not submission. That is being a pushover. And that could be anything. Like let's say, I don't know. Let's say I wanted to buy a really expensive car and you knew the finances and you were not okay with it because we probably wouldn't be able to make the payment because it would be too much. And I didn't have a down payment and the payments were going to be a lot. And you were like, we're not in a place for this right now. And I don't think it's a good idea. And I go, well, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyways. And then I gaslight and push and stonewall when you try to have conversations about it. And I start doing all the things that people like to use as buzzwords, but actually start doing those to you until you finally cave and go, you know what, you're whatever, babe. You're the head of the household. You just do whatever you want to do. That is allowing me to walk on you. That's not the same thing as me going, babe, I want to buy this car. I want your opinion on it. And you go, well, I think it would make our finances tight. And then me going, okay, well, here's what I think we could cut to make it so that we can afford this and I can get what I want and it not stress the household financially. And then you going, okay, well, I'm a little bit more comfortable now. And I'm like, okay, well, then how do you feel about doing it? Ultimately, you give me final decision-making capability that has been discussed on the podcast. I have the ability to veto you at any time. I don't.
Right.
We have discussions and we have intelligent conversation about the way things that are going to go because any veto bill or any vetoing that I do, I'm like the president, veto that bill. Any vetoing that I do is going to affect your life in a negative or positive manner. And I'm the one who has to weigh, I have to carry that.
Right. But that boils down to is that you care about me.
Right.
And you're emotionally mature enough to own your fuck ups.
That speaks to leadership.
Yeah.
And that not all men are capable of being leaders. So my answer to that is don't submit to a man that is not capable of leadership. That speaks on what you said earlier about the most important decision a woman will ever make is who she chooses to marry.
Oh, I didn't say woman.
Okay, it's the most important decision you'll ever make in your life.
Yeah.
Either way. I agree with it in either scenario, but because I believe that women have the power to destroy a man like no other.
Right.
So I do agree with that statement. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Do you have anything on that before I read the next one? Okay. How do you practice submissiveness when there are things that are actively bothering you in the relationship?
Understanding that maintaining the baseline of my relationship is going to be the foundation for longevity.
So then how do you handle that? If you are trying to be submissive,
Right.
This is literally the example that we just gave. If you are trying to be submissive and there are things that are bothering you in our relationship,
Right.
how do you continue to be submissive?
Okay, well, have I verbalized it or is this like a me problem?
It doesn't specify.
Okay, so I'm gonna approach this in two ways. The first way I'm gonna approach it is I am trying to decipher if I am bothered because of my borderline or if I am bothered because my husband actually has done something that bothers me. So if I am currently working through something that bothers me and I'm processing, this is a me problem. My husband doesn't have to be aware that I'm going through anything right now. Once I figure out whether it's a me problem or it's my husband's problem, then I will approach you and be like, hey, look, just so you're aware, I worked through all of this shit and I've healed a trauma. And you can high five me over it. Or I'll approach you and say, hey, babe, I've spent the last 2 days thinking about this. I've tried to approach it in a way that maybe I was overreacting, but I don't think I'm overreacting, so I want to bring it to your attention because it made me feel a certain way. So in that 2 days where I'm processing my emotions and I'm an internal turmoil, because that's what it's like to be with borderline, I recognize that if I were to allow my internal turmoil bleed out into reality, I would self-destruct everything. You would see a side of me that would change your perspective of me. And this is like an extreme in my mind. Like, you would leave me. It would be the ugliest of the ugliest. I would be nasty. I would fall into vindictiveness. Like, I recognize that my feelings are not facts. So until I can figure out what the facts of the situation are, I maintain the baseline of my marriage. Now, moving on to the next scenario where I have broached the conversation with you, like, hey, babe, this bothers me in our relationship. And I'm just going to pick a random thing, like you liking women's posts on Instagram. I don't like it when you follow supermodels and like their photos. It makes me feel like I'm not attractive enough. If that is ignored, right, that's just what men do. Get used to it. I'm not stopping it. That submissiveness is going to cease and the reevaluation of the relationship is going to begin. Because it is my goal in my life to be able to be a comfortable, submissive housewife to a submissive husband. And if that is not the person I am with, what is the point of being in this relationship?
Are you done with that?
I'm done with that thought. Did all of that make sense?
It did. And there's a lot I want to elaborate on, which is why I was waiting until you were done. The not liking the photos, fuck. We may have to react to this entire thing at some point.
Okay.
Because I've already lost a lot of it. The not liking women's photos on Instagram, you said, was because
makes me feel like I'm not attractive.
Right.
Attractive enough.
You said, I don't like it when you follow supermodels and like all their photos because it makes me feel like I'm not attractive enough. Mm-hmm. That's not how that conversation is ever had.
No.
So that shows a level of maturity in you, mm-hmm. security and safety in the ability to talk to me, to tell me what's going on, knowing that I'm going to take that information mm-hmm. and submit to the fact that you have an insecurity and I'm probably not helping. And at the least, I'm not helping that insecurity, right? So right. I'm going to submit to your will and not do that. I'm not going to tell you that's just what men do because it's bullshit.
Right.
That's a cop-out. That is I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do regardless of how you feel.
An excuse for you to be a piece of shit?
And that's the narrative mm-hmm. that a lot of people deal with. Now, if you were like, why are you liking that bitch's shit? It's a very different conversation than the one that we just had.
Right.
Because now you're coming at me sideways. I have no idea why you're angry.
Right.
Now it feels like control.
No, I'm defensive.
And you're making demands. So that is the conversation that needs to be had. Mm-hmm. There was something else that you fucking said that I was like, I do this shit sometimes to like know that I'm trying to remember something and it's fucking gone. But there was something else that you had mentioned in there that was really fucking important that ties into all of that.
Was it before or after what you just commented on?
It was before. That's why I lost it.
Say what you just commented on again.
I was talking about the Instagram photos.
The Instagram photos. So what I was talking about prior was me internally processing things while I'm going through it. So like I'm not okay. Like I don't feel okay about things in the relationship right now, but I have to decipher whether or not it's my mental illnesses or something that you actually did.
Okay. It's back.
Okay.
The high five moment. If you work through a trigger or a trauma and you are no longer a Band-Aid and it's starting to scab and you're in the healing process and you're able to work through that without me, that's fucking gangster. Mm-hmm. If you are working through something and you need your husband, that is my fucking job.
Yeah.
My job is to carry the things that you can't. Mm-hmm. But that speaks on a time and place. If we're out at dinner and something happens and it triggers you and you become a see you next Tuesday to everyone for the rest of the evening, that's not the fucking place.
Right.
You put that shit aside until we're done with our evening, and then we work through it on the ride home or whatever needs to happen. This is a time and place. This is why I think it's important for men to understand that it is okay to cry, but you need to determine when it is okay and when it is not okay to cry. So like in the event that we have to go do some nasty shit, we need to get that nasty shit out of the way and process the emotions afterwards. You compartmentalize. I think that's important for everyone. And your ability to do that and work through things without bringing it to me eliminates a lot of unnecessary nastiness because you're going through something in the moment. Sometimes that conversation is as simple as, look, I'm working through something. I got a new trigger that I didn't realize was a trigger. And as soon as I work through it, we're going to have a discussion about it. It's not something you did. Maybe it was something you did, but I'm not mad at you. It just made me realize X, Y, Z. Right? Okay. Those were my two things on that. I have another one too. I think it's important to recognize that since we're talking about the difference between submitting as a wife and submitting biblically as a wife, just because you want to submit biblically and have that true submission the way that you've laid it out, doesn't mean that you have a man that's worth submitting to.
Yes.
If that relationship with God is not there and he's not willing to submit to God and love his wife like Jesus loved the church, you shouldn't be trying to have that kind of a relationship because the other half of the relationship isn't there.
Right. You're pouring your water into a cup with holes in it.
Right. I'm going to take it a step further and say that Jesus died for us.
Yeah.
We are his church. His gospel. He died for it. So if you are not a man who is willing to put your life on the line for your woman and your children and love them to that capacity, you're not a man worthy of being a leader.
Right.
In terms of a submissive biblical housewife. And I think that's important to remember as well. And I understand that this is touching religion shit, and a lot of you guys may not be here for that, but that was the question. The difference between those three submissions. And that last one is fucking important. Okay.
I want to touch on another thing for submission.
Okay.
I support any endeavor you want to do. There are things in life that are scary to me, but I trust you more than I have fear of things. Does that make sense?
It sounds like you trust my ability more than your fear.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think how I want to phrase this because it was really quick in my mind. I hate that my mind is so fast and I can't just vomit a picture for you to look at. The only thing I'm thinking of, so because we're speaking of biblically, was when Peter, before he became Peter, went to his wife and said, I'm leaving to go with Jesus. And like her whole, you're what? And she kind of had an issue with it. And it's like she really had to pray on it and think about what she was going to do as a wife to her husband. And she decided to support him. And she was like, I have it here. Everything's going to be good. Even when she became pregnant, don't worry about me. Go take care of what you need to take care of. Like, you're being called upon and I support you in all of this. I view that as my role as your wife. I'm gonna start fucking crying. End thought. I'm crying. Go to the next thing.
I'm going to touch on that real quick because you said something that matters.
Okay.
The ability to find somebody that you can trust to lead and that has shown you the ability to overcome your fears builds that trust that allows you to have that kind of faith in somebody. That's not given. Just because we started dating and I open your car door and I buy your dinners doesn't mean that I have proven to you that I am the capable man that I am in order for you to allow me to lead in those type of roles.
Right.
Because that's built up over time. That shows that's my husband's got me because history has fucking shown that your husband's got you. Things may not always go 100% according to plan, but they always fucking work out. Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm like, we're going to do this, and this, and only one of those thises came into fruition and the other 9 did not.
We got this one, homie.
That doesn't show you that I'm a man of my word who's capable of doing the things that I say I'm going to do. Of course, you're not going to have the faith and abilities in me,
right?
The faith of ability in me to accomplish the things that we set out to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And that's it. We are setting out to accomplish things. Your garden is a prime example of that. Babe, I want to start a garden. These are the things that I want to do it. was on me to make sure that we had everything that we needed to do it. And I had to do a little bit of research, even though that's your project, right? You gave me an opportunity to serve you as your husband and to lead, and I showed you that I'm capable of doing it. That is one small thing amongst many things that shows you that you have a man who's capable of leadership. That's important to recognize. And a lot of people want to just give that to somebody and not.
Right.
That has to be earned.
Yeah. Not given to the first person who heals that mommy or daddy wound in you.
Yeah. So
or validates the mommy and daddy wound. I'm going to say validates because healing it means you're growing.
Yeah.
We don't want to validate the wounds and feed into them. There's a difference. Okay.
How does one go about building trust in situations requiring a certain level of failure? Like handing over control of the finances, for instance.
That requires a certain level of failure? I don't understand.
That's how it was worded. How does one go about building trust in situations requiring a certain level of failure? Like handing over control of the finances, for instance. I don't understand the question either.
I'm not going to answer that because I don't understand it. There's not, if I hand over the finances to my husband and he fails, he's not going to handle the finances. Like,
right.
So what do you mean a certain level of failure? Because there is not a certain level of failure when it comes to finances. If you fail with your finances, you lose your house.
Right.
We're not playing these games. Okay. An elaboration of that question would be dope. We could probably do like a follow-up of this maybe.
Amanda Ford said, how did y'all have a submissive relationship, though, without the Bible and Jesus, etc.?
It was just a different understanding. There was a love for you, and that love changed when I had a deeper understanding of my existence through faith. That's all I can say. It transformed. Or I myself transformed, and I gained a deeper understanding. I don't know how to talk about that.
For me, it was... I believe in gender roles.
Yeah.
This is going to trigger a whole lot of you. And I got to be honest, I don't give a fuck.
Okay.
I'm at a point now where I really don't care if people get in their feelings about the shit that I'm talking about.
Say it.
I have a fucking duty to provide and protect for my woman. If I wanted a fucking mother figure and I needed to be taken care of and was a fucking frail little boy of a man, I wouldn't have a submissive woman. I would have a dominant woman who was trying to fucking run my life. Mm-hmm. I am not that man. I want to be the superhero in our story. When we fucking are old as fuck, rolling around in wheelchairs in a nursing home, having races down the hallway, I still want to win just by an inch. So that you can go, my husband's the fastest old motherfucker in here, and hype me up and talk shit. And
I will. Every single one. You hear that, Harold?
Slow ass. If I don't live the life that shows you that I am that motherfucker, I can't be that motherfucker long term. I can't expect a woman to submit to me, my woman to submit to me, if I'm not a man that's capable of leading. If I'm constantly failing, if I can't pay the rent, if I have to call motherfuckers and be like, bro, I know you loaned me money a couple months ago, but I'm hurting right now. Can you fucking like couple $100 because my power bill's about to get shut off? Kids, I know you're hungry. We got ramen or ramen. We might have hot dogs tomorrow if dad can pick up some side work. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to expect you to ever submit to that? Because I'm not capable. If I put my comfort above the needs of my family, I'm not a fucking man, I'm a boy. I don't expect submission in that case. And if you are the type of man that requires submission from a woman and you're not capable of leading, you're a fucking moron. Mm-hmm. Like, you need to step up and let your balls drop. I don't give a fuck that your back hurts. I have to work. I'm doing shit around the house still and trying to live our life with fucking massive amounts of pain for 3 weeks. And I'm going to complain about it. I'm going to fucking cry when I need to because I'm in a lot of fucking pain right now, but I have fucking work to do. And I'm going to do it. And if I had to go outside and work in the yard, I've worked with Ivy with her fucking tug toy. Dog is 50 pounds and I'm fucking swinging around in pain because it needs to happen because it's been raining for 3 fucking days. There are things that have to be done. My comfort be damned. And if you don't have a man that is willing to step up and do those things, you don't have a man, you have a fucking child.
Right.
That's the difference. That's the difference between being biblical with our faith and not. I am still that motherfucker. I am a man. I have my roles, my duties as a man, and I'm going to do those. If I didn't do those, I couldn't expect a submissive woman.
And because you you do the things that you do because of the duty that you feel is the reason that I have so much grace when you're snippy when you're in pain.
I appreciate that, Grace, because I realize sometimes after it comes out that it came out a little harsher than I intended it
Yeah.
to.
But like in instances like that, if you weren't the kind of man, if you were just like sitting on the couch gaming for 3 weeks in pain and talking shitty to me, you don't fucking talk to me that way,
Right.
babe. But with you being in pain and seeing you sit in here for 3 or 4 hours on your ass, editing on a video or something because you can't get up and walk away from it for right now, or life inconveniences, just moving, walking. If you had laid in bed for the last 3 days and be like, babe, I'm not doing shit, I get it. But you didn't. You got up and you pushed yourself. And I asked you, babe, do you want me to put your sock and shoe on for you today? I'm going to do the subservient wife thing. And you're like, no, I got my pride left. Like, let me do this. And I did. If you were not the man that you are, I wouldn't be as submissive as I am with you. I'm just elaborating on what you said.
That pride in putting my shoe and sock on this morning comes from I can do this. And like, I know somebody's going to be like, well, she takes his boots off. I don't need you to take my boots off.
Right.
I view that as a thank you for working hard. And a thank you for going to work today could have been putting my shoe and sock on because it hurts to do it. It does hurt to do it, but I'm fucking capable of doing it still. I'm going to get it done. There is a stubbornness, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Can I give my perspective on it?
Sure.
I think you are there is a fear in you and your body falling apart, and you're going to put that off as long as you can.
Yeah.
So you are going to fucking suffer just to prove to yourself that this is just a temporary pain and this is not going to be a long-term, my wife is going to have to put my socks and shoes on for me.
Because when I have no service left in me, there is no point for me anymore. That's how that works. When I am no longer able to provide and lead and do the things that I'm supposed to be doing as a man, I have no use for existence. That's the way that I view the world. And I don't care if other people disagree or agree or whatever. That's my viewpoint. No one else's opinion is going to change that because that's my lived experience and the way that I view my life. And that's a choice. I could obviously change my mind and be the guy that plays video games for 3 weeks and yells and screams and where's my fucking meatloaf? Like, there's no point in that. I don't agree with that lifestyle. That's my perspective. I'm going to point to Mike and Sabrina on this. Mike is a fucking good man. Mm-hmm. He was like working up until the point of labor, and like I could be wrong on this, but I'm almost positive that at one point there was a concern that he wasn't going to be able to make it to the hospital in time because he was working. That relationship, from my viewpoint, looking outwardly in, he's the type of man that would deserve a woman's submission because of the way that he carries himself. Andrew and Alexa, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. Andrew kills himself to make sure that they have the things that they need. And though she still works, like, in my opinion, he's the type of man that deserves that title. Mm-hmm. It takes work, and it's showed
dedication.
Right. And it's shown over and over and over again that that's the way things are supposed to be. Somebody said, I hope you include specific examples from past relationships or this one where the lack of DS teamwork led to fallout, big and permanent, or even just a ruined day. Our DS relationship aspect of this has absolutely nothing to do with the submissive housewife or leadership capabilities of a husband.
Yeah.
Every time somebody goes, well, they have a DS relationship, I want to be like, that's not the same fucking thing.
It is one of the most insulting things.
Right.
I think somebody can say to us about our marriage.
Dark Angel Athena said, I have 2 questions that relate to each other, even though I'm not sure if they are what you were looking for. First question is, what can you do if you want to be submissive to your man, but don't seem to be the dominant, but they don't seem to be the dominant type? Let me read it again.
Yes.
I stuttered it. What can you do if you want to be submissive to your man, but they don't seem to be the dominant type?
Oh, man. So my mind goes as you either are or you aren't. And not everybody's meant to be with everybody. If you wanted a dominant man, you should have started dating a dominant man. Things can change in a relationship, though. I would start having those conversations. I want to be a more submissive housewife, and this is what that looks like to me. And in order for me to be this, I would like for my husband to be more dominant in these aspects.
Do you think that using the term dominant and submissive in that situation is the reason that we get the dom sub conversations?
I think that everything in society is so sexualized now. Yes.
Because there's a difference between being dominant and leading. And I think that's why people have a problem with the word submissive, because in order for you to submit to me, that means that I'm dominating you. And that's not the case. I'm leading our house. And
I thought we were having a dom sub conversation just now.
no, well, the way she worded it comes to submissive and dominant. And I'm saying, to answer her question, after you answered your point, I asked you if you thought that that's why they make it a dom sub conversation, because of the terminology submissive and dominant. I don't think that a man needs to be dominant for his wife to submit to him. I think he needs to be a leader.
Okay, so now I'm confused. I don't understand what we're talking about.
We're having this, it's just a continuation of the conversation.
Right, but I thought this was a conversation about a dom sub relationship aspect.
No.
So she means dominant as in leadership?
I think that she's meaning a submissive wife. I don't think that this is leading into, this is not about sex, which further proves your point that you just made. The dom sub thing was a single comment from somebody, and I just addressed the fact that I hate that that's a thing. We talked about that.
Oh, I thought
and then
that's
we
what
moved
this
on.
was. No, I did not move on from that. You moved on.
Okay. Well, that's because I can see the screen.
Okay. So that's where I was hung up at. Okay.
Do you want me to pull up the Discord so that you can see?
No, it's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because it won't be hard.
No. It's
Okay.
fine.
So then moving away from that,
Okay.
the question was, what can you do if you want to be submissive to your man, but they don't seem to be the dominant type?
And we're doing dominant as in leadership.
That's how I feel like it should be worded. The second question,
Because, well, I want to elaborate because you're right. Dominant is not leadership.
right.
So if we're having a dom sub conversation, that's a whole different conversation in regards to safety and all of those things. Is a whole different realm. So you said there's a second question.
The second question makes me believe that we're not having a sex conversation.
Okay.
And the second question is, can you expand on being dominant? My perception of a dominant person is someone who is assertive and may have a bit of an aggressive, not meant to be negative personality. How can someone be dominant without those characteristics? I think that in the submissive wife conversation that we're having, it has nothing to do with being dominant.
I agree. Because I am also assertive. Right? She said someone who is assertive.
Who is assertive and may have a bit of an aggressive, and then in parentheses, not meant to be negative personality.
But I'm that. I'm assertive and I have an aggressive personality.
Right. But you submit to me.
Right. So I don't think this person, I'm not on the same thought process as this person. I don't think being assertive or having a domineering personality means you can't submit. If you're going to be a leader, you are submitting. So the verbiage is tripping me up.
No, it's okay. So elaborate on that. If you're going to be a leader, you are submitting.
Right, because you're submitting to the greater good of the unit.
Right. Well, that's an important distinction.
Right.
To be a leader doesn't mean that you're in charge. It doesn't mean that you get to reap the rewards that everybody else is doing. It means that you get to wear the fucking failure of everything, and you get to spread the glory of the win. Mm-hmm. If I fuck up because I have final decision making, I own that fucking mistake.
Right.
If we win, bitch, we won. We won. Mm-hmm. You gave me input. I listened to that shit. I made a decision that fucking benefited us. We did that. Mm-hmm. That's what leadership is. Leadership is not you go do this, you go do that, you go do that. I benefit.
Right.
That's not leadership. Okay. I think what Athena meant in that is that it should have been she should have used leader instead of dominant.
Okay.
And I think that those conversations need to be specified with such, because if we're having a dom sub conversation, that has nothing to do with you being a submissive wife.
Right. It doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't. Are we moving on from that?
No, I'm listening.
I don't know how you get a grown man to be a leader. Like that, I view that shit as taught in childhood. You're not going to be a follower. You're going to have your own original thoughts. You're going to be a problem solver. You're going to be able to get yourself out of anything. And you're going to be the person that people can look to for advice. But you're not going to be the smartest person in the room. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. How would you get a 20-year-old young man to be a leader.
Things grow under pressure.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think that it's a childhood thing. I do believe that it's best taught in childhood and then nurtured and developed through over time. But I also believe that when somebody hits rock bottom and they are forced to do something that they otherwise would not have done, it gives them a level of confidence that they would have not had otherwise, that allows them to view themselves in a different light. And I believe that at any season of our lives, we can grow and evolve into a new version of ourselves.
Right.
So with that being said, I think that in order for a man to become a leader, he has to be put in positions where he is forced to lead. Now, is that going to make him a good leader? No, he's going to fail a lot in the process. There's going to be a whole lot of mistakes made. And if he's a man who's capable of learning from his mistakes, that really sucked. I definitely don't want to do that again. Or I did this and these are the consequences of doing that. And now I know that's the case. Or he sees another man do some shit that had major fallout from it. It makes that mental note, I don't want to do that. That's how I've been successful in business. Every time I've seen somebody do some shit, I'm like, oh, that wasn't the move. Mental note, don't fucking ever do that. Or I'll see something and go, okay, I need to do the exact opposite of that if I want to make money or be successful. So like, it is very possible for us to evolve and become those things.
Right. I was just asking, how would you do that? Like, how would a submissive housewife push her husband to be a leader?
By finding things, by treating him like a dog. God damn it. All I can think of is you holding a treat in front of my face, trying to get me to do something so that I can accomplish it and feel a little bit of pride. That was the image in my brain.
Yeah.
But that's it. So if you know that I can do something that you can praise me for doing, you push me to do it. Mm-hmm. And then I do it. And then I get the praise. Babe, that was fucking sexy. I love that you did that. It makes me feel dainty. It makes me feel like you're leading our fucking household. You're such a good man. You're a great father. I like the way this feels. I want to do more of that because it feels good. So now that I've got a little bit of confidence, if you're like, what do you think about this? And I've got that confidence and that pride and maybe even a little bit of arrogance and ego. Well, I can do that for you, babe. I got you. Like, and then if you see me fucking up, you could be like, well, wait a minute. Maybe that's not right. We should double check that. And oh, yeah, maybe you're right. And now I've got even more confidence because I know you got my fucking back and you didn't let me fall on my face. That's how you build leadership. It's like with children, it's how you work it in a team lead capability. If you hire somebody that's a hard worker, that's who you want to make a team leader because he's willing to do the work to evolve, to grow and change into that team lead position. And if he's a good person, he's going to pass those lessons down to the people below him, and eventually leadership will work upstream. So I believe that's where that leadership is built. It starts from really small, easy to do things that builds confidence, pride, and a little bit of ego. And that could speak on a whole lot of other things that you have to watch out for, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Right.
You know, the false sense of securities, giving too much so that it doesn't become a problem. You know, that's a whole lot of.
Okay.
Next one says, explain the benefit of submitting to your partner and them submitting to you in the context of emotional and mental well-being.
Life is hard. To quote Mr. Meeseeks, existence is pain. And not just your own existence. Seeing humanity do what humanity does to itself is devastating. The one person in the world who can give you solace is supposed to be the person you're married to. So if I'm having a hard time right now and say I am processing something from my childhood that I've repressed, and for the last month and a half, I've been really depressed. And I'm just going through it. And I'm not as lovey-dovey as I usually am. Your submission to me as your wife is understanding that I'm not going to be on my A game right now. We might have conversations about sex before initiating sex. Like, there is a deeper understanding there emotionally that long-term wise to make sure my wife is up to par, I need to nurture her now. Does that make sense?
It does. You're answering this the same way I was going to answer it. You're just using different verbiage.
Yeah.
So it does. It absolutely makes sense.
Okay.
I had to read this 3 times to make sure that I was going to answer this correctly. And you're right on par with what I was going with.
Okay.
And I was going to actually use a very similar thing as an example, but I wasn't going to lead to sex. It was going to be the safety of our relationship, and how secure you feel with us is going to depend on me submitting to your emotional health.
Yeah.
In the event that you are having a BPD episode and you tell me you're splitting, in that moment, I'm submitting to the fact that you're going through what you're going through, and I'm choosing to let you feel however you're feeling and express it to me in a way without me getting defensive. That's a choice. I am validating. I understand what you're going through. I've been there. That fucking sucks to go through. I get it.
You're not calling me crazy.
What can I do to help you right now? I am. That is a form of submission. Choosing to not be defensive is a form of submitting.
Not taking it personally.
Right. So that our answer was exactly the same. You just worded it a little bit differently, but that's what I got from that too.
Okay.
I'm gonna read it again and tell me if I was right.
Okay.
Explain the benefit of submitting to your partner and them submitting to you in the context of emotional and mental well-being.
Yeah,
We're going to give up of us to make sure that they're okay.
right, for the betterment of us to be okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the easy one then. How do you handle going from who the fuck do you think you're talking to being submissive?
Recognizing that people's reactions are not because of you.
What do you mean by that?
So this is the most freshest thing in my memory because it happened the other day. You snapped while you were sitting at the computer desk and you were in pain and I know what's going on, but you said what you said and I turned and I looked at you and I went, and I felt my glasses chain move and I was like, no, girl, stop. Hold it back. Hold it back. And I just said, okay. And I moved on and I did my thing.
And then I got up and apologized.
You did.
Okay.
You did. But that was that moment of who the fuck do you think you're talking to? And I lived in existence in a millisecond and like multiple perspectives of, well, he's in pain. You know, he's in pain. Don't take this personally right now. He's on autopilot. And then there was the version of me clapping back with the, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? The fuck do you mean? Who do you think I'm talking to? What? And then there's a back and forth and now we're both getting aggressive. You're already in pain. Now we're in conflict.
Right.
And like, I was like Doctor Strange, saw all the different realities of my reactions.
There's a difference between respond and react.
There is a difference between a response and a reaction. And my response was, okay. My reaction would have been to set the house on fire. Like, and that, I'm not joking. I'm my fucking borderline. When I'm emotional, I don't care what happens. I just don't want to feel this way right now. For me to reel that in, especially towards my husband, was to recognize my husband's a good man. If he wasn't a good man, I wouldn't have married him. If I did marry a bad man, what the fuck does that say about me? I have also recognized that me reacting instead of responding makes situations worse. Because it's not a calm reaction. It's a reaction of, oh, we're fighting.
It's visceral, right.
Word. And it's a trauma response. It's a survival tactic. It has taken time and has taken practice, but I am fine-tuning my ability to see the logic in the moment when I become emotional. And that was one of those moments. So I felt me move my head because I'm a very animated person. And when I feel like someone talks out the side of their neck to me, it's very much, I have a crowbar. Don't do this. I felt my glasses chains. And my glasses chains were enough in that moment for me to go, my husband is in pain right now. Don't do this. It's the reminder of, I married my husband for a reason. He's a good man. I'm not going to self-destruct this. And it's also a recognition of, I am not the center of my husband's universe. He is the center of his universe. I'm just happy to be a part of it. Right? Of course, I'm a priority to you. When your body's not right, you're not focusing on what is Peaches doing right now. You're focusing on every time I move, it fucking hurts. I'm a grown woman. I can take care of myself. Just like in that moment when I was able to reel in my trauma response and actually respond to my husband versus react to the demon cognitive bias film that was placed over you in that moment.
Right.
Did all of that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I'm going to add to that by saying that if your go-to response to your husband or to your wife is always, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? And
Yeah.
that is a constant.
Right,
That is
not just in moments.
That is not someone you want to submit to,
Yeah,
because that's not a leader. If that is your response, it means that they don't know how to communicate.
right.
It means that they're being inappropriate. They're saying things that are intentionally triggering you, being nasty, whatever the case may be. Now you're setting yourself up for abuse. If that is your go-to response when your husband speaks to you or your wife speaks to you, you're in the wrong relationship.
Yeah,
Full chest.
I agree.
Okay. All right. So while she's out there having a smoke break, I want to touch on something. On that dub sub thing, if that question was about the sexual side of things, I think it's important to recognize that as men, especially inexperienced men, we want guidance in what is going to make you guys happy. So if you have a man who is not a dominant man in the bedroom, playtime wise, and that's what you want, and you want to submit to him, then you have to lead him in what it is that's going to make you happy. And you will probably get pushback. So what I was saying is you'll probably get pushback from that in the beginning. And that's going to speak to his own insecurities and the need to feel like he knows what he's supposed to know. It's not a bad thing to give direction, especially if there are things that you want as a woman, because if you don't give direction and you don't speak up, we are never going to know. There could be a layer of like fear. What if I fuck up? What if something goes wrong, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that speaks to your ability to communicate and verbal cues. So I would start there. Explain what it is that you want. Let them know that it'll make you happy. And if they're not comfortable with it, ask them why they're not comfortable with it. If they're inexperienced in it, tell them that's okay. Maybe you are too, and it's something you want to try, but you have the conversations about it. You articulate your needs and you try to guide them into the way to make you happy.
Wait, I'm so confused. Are you talking about the sexual thing now?
Mm-hmm. I was answering the Dom sub question.
What Dom sub question?
The one that was asked about how do you make him a dominant if he's not already, or if you want to be submissive and he's not a dominant person. You don't have to be a dominant to submit.
I'm so confused. I thought that wasn't a sexual question.
It wasn't. I didn't take it that way.
Okay, but now you're answering it like it is.
Right, because you answered it like it was. I got up to
Okay.
eat and started thinking about it.
Okay.
So now I'm answering it as well. But I was trying to do it while you're out there because it's not really relevant to anything. But
Right.
it's important that men understand that it's okay to get direction. Mm-hmm. I was going to say some really mean, nasty shit just now, and I'm not going to. But when it comes down to it, most men have no fucking idea. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys don't pay attention the way that they should be paying attention. Body cues, verbal cues, breathing cues, all of that shit matters. So if you are somebody who wants to be submissive as a woman and the man that you are with is not a dominant person and you want that in the bedroom, there are ways to make that happen. He's just got to be comfortable with it. And that comes from proper communication, articulating the things that you want, having conversations about it outside of the bedroom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So I was just giving my perspective on if that is the relationship that you want and it's not capable. You just have to be able to communicate what you need and then understand that he may not be comfortable with it. He could be inexperienced, whatever the case may be. And you just have to talk through those things in order to build that confidence.
If we're going to have that conversation, I have so many more thoughts on that. I didn't really answer that question.
We'll run with it. I didn't think that's where the question was.
Right.
Which is why I was like, I don't like the term dominant. I prefer the term leader.
Right.
But if you want to run on with that, go ahead.
No, we're already 2 hours in.
And it's going to be a long podcast no matter what, because there's still a bunch of questions on there.
Let's just do the questions. I'm just saying I would like to do a separate, like if we're going to have that conversation with people.
Okay. I actually don't really want to have that conversation with people. I'm only answering that specific question because it's not that answer was not about sex. That answer was about communicating your needs and having somebody who's willing to listen to become better. And that was my answer to that, more so than...
But you were just talking about like breathing cues and whatnot.
Right, because most men don't pay attention to those things.
Okay. I guess I just don't understand where you're going with all of this then.
Oh, new message. I'm about 18 minutes behind on the live, but your answer regarding leadership made sense. I had a different bias about a dominant person, but referring to them as a leader makes more sense now. Thank you.
Okay, so now we know.
Yep.
Dope.
All right. The first one of these says, could you explain submission outside of sexual context, which is the entire episode so far, so we can skip that one. Question 2 is, would you consider a submissive relationship an all times thing or a sometimes thing? That's because that's part 1 of the question. So
Okay, read that one more time then.
would you consider a submissive relationship an all the time thing or a some of the time thing?
An all the time thing.
Same. Why?
Because the relationship is more important than your feelings.
Okay.
Now, if the person's being abusive or they're not upholding their end of that, that changes things. If you're upset that they forgot to wash the dishes after you asked them to do it last week, that's just a gentle reminder.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely not a time to bark orders.
Right. Did that make sense?
It did.
Okay.
My answer to that is it needs to be an all the time thing, because if it's not, you're not allowing somebody to lead.
Mm-hmm.
You are never going to have a confident leader if every time he tries or she tries to lead, you become combative and question that authority and shit on it. That confidence has to be there in order for somebody to effectively do their job. They have to believe in themselves. Mm-hmm. And in a relationship, knowing that we have to be on the same page, if I'm not coming to you with something, it's because I'm confident in our ability to communicate needs, that I know what you want and I can just make a decision. If I can't make a decision, or I'm extremely for something and I have to argue with you about it, there's no leadership there.
Right.
If I can come to you with facts, this is what I'm thinking, X, Y, Z, I think it's going to be really good for us. How do you feel? And you go, it makes a whole lot of sense. Do it. Confidence boost. Next level. I'm now at level 9. Like, I'm almost there. But if I'm like, this is what I think, this is what I think, this is what I think, and you're like, that's fucking stupid, I don't want to do that. Now I'm at like a 6. Because what I was very confident in, you just shit on, and it's knocked me back down. So it speaks to both, I guess, in that aspect. It needs to be an all the time thing, because if it's constantly being knocked down, I'm never going to have the confidence to lead. But that also speaks to not putting yourself in a position where you guys are going to get hurt, and being able to address the concerns from a place of love and understanding instead of hostility. I think I might have just taken myself way past what they were asking.
Read the question again.
Would you consider submissive relationship an all the time thing or the some of the time thing? That was literally just it. But I added a whole lot into that had, I guess, didn't need to go in there.
Well, but it made sense. I mean, to me, it made sense.
Dude, you guys are really hung up on this whole domination thing.
Is this the second part of the question?
It is.
Okay.
Is a partner to be dominant in all areas of the relationship? Is the submissive partner to be submissive in all areas of the relationship?
No.
You guys are hung up on this dominant sub thing, and that domination and leadership isn't the same thing.
This is why we put such an emphasis on understanding the definition of words, because all words have meanings.
Right.
Not just what you think it means.
Right. When you speak dom sub, I think sex.
Right.
I think the playtime in the bedroom. When you think being a submissive wife or a submissive husband, I don't view it that way.
That's marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to find one more to move on, because I'm starting to get discouraged.
So we're not answering that?
You can answer it. I'm going to look for the
Okay.
next question.
No, there are definitely aspects of our life that I run. If we're running with the dominant theme, I dominate the kitchen, the household. I could do our grocery shopping. I'm not asking you, hey babe, can I go grocery shopping this week? I'm going grocery shopping on Thursday. I'm going to need $300, babe. The submissiveness, and that is my husband going, okay, I'm the provider. Here's the money that you need to provide for our family now.
Right. Instead of going, well, what do you need $300 for? Jesus, why is it so expensive? I need to see the grocery list.
Right.
That speaks to the ability to have teamwork, though.
Mm-hmm.
I trust in your ability to do the things that are your roles,
Right.
because you're fucking good at them. I don't have to question that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So that works?
Right. And I also don't take advantage of the situation.
Right.
I'm not telling you I need $300 for groceries and I'm only spending $100 of that on food. Right? If I want something, I come to you and I ask for it, because you have proven to me that you're able to provide not just in the aspects of survival. If I want something frivolous, like $1,000 worth of Crocs, I'm going to drop it every once in a while in the hopes.
Just to let me know that you haven't forgotten.
No, just in the hopes that maybe one day you'll change your mind on them. The definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on that hopium. Jenna tagged me in heel Crocs. Platform heel Crocs.
Okay. This is going to be one of those things that I do not want to do
Okay.
because I fucking hate Crocs. They're ugly and they smell. They smell. Yeah, they do. And when you wear them, your feet smell. Stick your nose in there.
It smells like nothing.
The fuck it does. You don't have a nose.
I would be confident enough to let Carrie smell this Croc. Like,
Carrie doesn't have a nose like I have a nose. I can smell cannabis in a jar with the lid on it. Like through the jar, through the glass, through the lid, I can smell it. I'm like a fucking trained dog.
Yeah.
It's so fucking sensitive. Perfumes give me headaches. So anyways, I'm willing to give you the money to buy these fucking Crocs. But it has to be done as content for the podcast or for TikTok so that I can write all of that shit off as a loss. And then I feel like I'm getting a win out of it. Because otherwise, there's no victory in this for me.
Okay. I will make content out of it.
I hate this. All right.
That was a very aggressive offering of it.
It was.
Were you hoping I was going to say no? Why were you so aggressive with it?
Because I have a dislike for Crocs.
Right.
And knowing that there's going to be probably 200 pairs of fucking Crocs in the house.
Yeah.
And all different colors and leopard print and hot pink with flashlights and blinkers and fucking
Right.
high heels. And you're probably going to buy country Croc boots. And I hate everything about this. There's going to be times where I'm going to have to be like, babe, I love you, but you're going to have to put some shoes on.
We don't have to do this. It was more of just an ongoing joke of the Crocs thing.
Is it a joke?
Yeah.
Or do you really want the Crocs?
It's not a necessity. I'm not going to lose sleep over not having the Crocs.
Because this has been brought up a lot over the last year.
Right, but it's a joke.
Is it?
If it's not a joke for you, then I'll stop making the joke of it.
All right. I'm willing to secede to the Croc thing. Just don't wear them all the time. Like, there's a time and place for Crocs.
Right.
Like, there's a time and place for flip-flops.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we should do one more and then go to the chat.
Okay.
Because there might be more relevant things going on in the chat now that we've been very clear about the difference between leadership and Dom Sub.
Okay.
This one says, some of the things, this is a two-part question, one for you, one for me. I think a lot of people may question, and I have yet to see you guys talk about is, Peach, how did it feel for you to submit as a wife after finding a man who's capable of leadership? That's part one of the question. It's a three-part question.
Okay. Freeing.
Why?
Because in being with you, I actually got to experience, and I am still currently, right? I'm just thinking like past me the first time I ever experienced this, a teammate.
Okay.
Somebody who is able to pick up the stress and actually carry it. It's not just a show. This isn't just to impress me. This isn't just because you feel like in the moment you want to do this. It's a disciplined thing for you. And knowing that you are capable, willing, able to, and disciplined to handle the things that you handle in our life frees me to watercolor paint or knit or hang out with the children at the zoo. It's freed up a lot for me, and because maintaining a household is a lot. Maintaining the children are a lot. Maintaining a family is a lot. And I've done the single mom thing. So I can't be a father to the children, but having to do the dual parent, taking care of the household and providing an income was a lot.
Did you ever, so bonus question from me and not from the person who wrote in, did you want this in life? Was this ever like a goal or an aspiration for you? Because
what we have,
this being able, the freedom to choose to submit to a man.
it's not something I realized I wanted until I was with you. That was a hidden door behind wallpaper in my house that I was doing renovations on 35 years later. And I'm like, oh my God, what's back here? This is fantastic. Why did somebody wall this off?
Okay.
I didn't decorate this house. Who did this? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because of the generational shit that was taught to me.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and that's why I ask, because you say how great it is and how amazing it is for you to be able to do that. But you have stated over and over again that you were the fuck all men, don't need a man feminist,
Yeah.
because it was ingrained in you that that's the way you needed to be.
Right.
On top of the, I have the vajayjay, I have the power mindset that was also instilled in you. And the life that you are living right now is the exact opposite of all of that.
Yes.
And per your statements, I am happier than I've ever been.
Yeah.
So that
I'm more
was never on your
fulfilled.
radar.
No, it was never on my radar. As something that I wanted, no. I had a vision. I remember I was maybe 15 or 16 years old. And my boyfriend at the time was 16 or 17. He had his driver's license. And we were hanging out somewhere, and he asked me what I wanted to be for a career. And I was like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And back then, my vision as a stay-at-home mom is I am going to do cleaning of the house. I'll cook when I feel like it. And then otherwise, I'm going to do whatever I want. If I want to sit on my butt, I'm going to sit on my butt. And if you have a problem with how I maintain the household, then we're going to have a fight about it. It was a way for me to excuse my laziness.
Okay.
So even the vision that I had of a stay-at-home mom was diluted.
Okay. So do you think that maybe at some point, at some level of that you actually did want this life?
No.
Even though you had a misconstrued idea of what this life is?
I'm going to say no, because the life that I have now is not something I was capable of understanding.
Okay.
Because even in that stay-at-home scenario, I'm going to be the ruler of this household. You're not going to go out if I have a problem with you going out. And if you go out anyway, I'm going to make sure your life is hell when you get back home. Because you made me unhappy. And that was my own perspective of things like that. I grew up with influences from multiple medias and vessels of information. And that was the thought process that was birthed from all of that.
This is why I have a hard time with the phrase happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, me too. It's a form of control.
Yeah.
It's a saying for women to have control.
The second part of this question is something that I was about to ask, but it said, at what point did you feel that you were capable of submitting? Because I was going to ask you what changed. Because you said it was when you realized you could have this life, you wanted it. But like, so her question was, at what point did you feel that you were capable of submitting? But I want to know what the change was. So not just at what point, but what was the change and at what point?
You asked me to move in with you.
That was what part of that?
That was the change. Like, that was me recognizing, like, I was already having thoughts. This sounds so stupid. I was already having thoughts of being a more submissive wife. Those weren't the words I was thinking, but the actions that I was thinking of. Like the ways that I wanted to convey my love to you. The way that I wanted to convey my love to you was ways that I've never done for a man before. And I was really struggling with, well, like, that's bitch shit. Like, you don't do that for a man. The same way that a group of men can be chastised for thinking that women are supposed to be subservient to them, that was the mindset that I had. My man's going to listen to me no matter what. And I express love when I feel like he's earned my love. And with the growth that I was having combined with the relationship that we were developing, my view on how to love someone was changing. Does that make sense before I continue? Okay. And I was going through this massive growth of what I now recognize as wanting to submit in a relationship, wanting to have unconditional love for somebody through their demons and all of those kinds of things, and making sacrifices in certain areas. And when you asked me to move in with you sacrificed a lot, like your retirement, a lot. And I don't know, that was one of those moments where I view that as a massive form of submission to me, because you want to be with me. You didn't want to have children. You've had kids. They're grown. Like, You're starting over again with a family.
Do you think that this falls into that statement that when you find a strong man, you're more likely to fall into your feminine? Is that a fair statement in this?
I think they balance out each other, yes. It's like when I don't know where this envisionment of my mind is coming from, but I'm envisioning the world, right? We have the North Pole and we have the South Pole, and we have evidence that those affect things within the universe, within our universe, the Earth. And all of the continents are just fucking moving because the poles are out of shift. Once those poles are put back where they're supposed to be, everything else settles down into alignment. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's how I feel like the divine feminine and divine masculine balance each other. Does that make sense?
Are you saying that when those things get where they're supposed to be, everything just kind of falls into alignment?
Yeah, like there's a balance there.
Yep. I'll agree with that.
Okay.
The last question on her question was, how long did it take for you to find peace in your submission?
How long did it take for me to find peace in my submission? Okay, so before I say this, when I think of peace, I think of there's never disruptions, right? I'm going to rephrase that because that's not how I wanted to word that. So when I think of peace, I think of a lake. And even though there may be rain that disturbs the surface of that lake, that rain is still peaceful because it's conducted in a nicely manner, right? There is turmoil still within me that I'm working through with my mental illnesses. So my peace is not disrupted by a gentle sun shower. My peace is disrupted by a massive F5 tornado. There's destruction happening. So I am at peace with my submission in my relationship because I'm very fulfilled with it. Due to the way that my brain is wired with my mental illnesses, I'm still fighting the demons that want to go against what I'm happy with because I feel like I don't deserve it. I'm unworthy of it. My husband said something snappy today, so fuck him, whatever it may be, right? The illogical things my emotions want to latch onto to self-destruct. I don't remember the question because I'm so far into my thought.
Okay, before I read the question, I have to elaborate on your thought.
Okay.
This is stupid. This is dumb. You were explaining the whole water drop thing, and all I could think of is the difference between dropping a giant fucking rock in the middle of the lake and skimming one across the top of it.
Right.
Because that's a disruption.
Yes.
That's chaos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that was a really good way to put that, babe.
The second part was, how long did it take? Oh, no.
Oh, how long did it take to become at peace with my submission? So I'm still working on that, right? My soul, I'm about to get like super, I don't know, crystals with you guys. Amethyst. So my soul is at peace with my submission and my marriage. My marriage is feeding my soul. My soul is sick with the viruses of human ailments like anxiety and depression and borderline and all of these other things that can inebriate my brain. Is this making sense?
So far, so good.
Okay.
I'm keeping up. I don't know if the rest of the world is, but I'm keeping up.
Okay. So kind of like how when we get drunk, it alters our brain, mental illnesses alter our soul.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense? Why are you laughing?
Because it does not make sense, but I know exactly what the fuck you mean.
Perfect.
It's all that matters. I'm following.
So my soul is fulfilled with this submission in my relationship. The borderline personality disorder that I suffer with is the drug altering the peace, right? The peace is the brain of my soul. Oh my God, I sound fucking insane.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
So the peace is the brain of my soul, and the borderline personality is the drug that is altering the peace. Right? My soul is aware that the borderline personality is a foreign substance that's altering me right now. And even though it's not a drug that's going to wear off, it's something that I can learn to cope with.
Right.
And me learning to cope with that, the toxicity that is ingrained in me about fuck all men, women who submit are less than women who are boss bitches, all of these other things. That part of the piece is what I'm still working through. The piece is there, but there are massive, like the Joker blowing up that hospital in my body if I'm having a bad mental day over being submissive because I don't want to do this right now. My husband said something 4 years ago and I'm just now thinking about it. My brain goes, fuck you. So no, I'm not going to cook you dinner today. Right? Did all of that make sense? Did any of that kind of make sense?
That was a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie. You kind of lost me towards the end there because I'm stuck on the Joker going.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that's my answer. The peace is there. My soul is satisfied. But due to the mental illnesses that I suffer from, I still have hard times unlearning toxic traits in me. So the toxicity, you're looking at me like you don't understand.
Because
so I feel like I need to elaborate.
I'm going to try to elaborate my understanding when you're done. But I'm
done.
Okay.
You elaborate because I'm just going to keep going because I feel like you don't understand.
You say that your soul is at peace.
Right.
This is what you want.
Yes.
But you still struggle because of the expectations that society has put on you and all the toxic learned behavior is having to be unlearned. That's difficult.
Kind of.
Like that. I mean, it's hard no matter what, especially when you continuously have people telling you,
right,
you're wrong. You shouldn't do that. You're being abused.
Right. And then sprinkle in my mental illness on top of that. It's a lot.
Right.
Okay.
So in that aspect, that absolutely makes fucking sense.
Yeah.
Because you're doing what satisfies you instead of allowing the validation of other people's opinions to dictate your existence.
Yes.
There's a freedom in that though, especially when you're able to like breathe.
Right.
Because they're like, da, 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 and you're like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I don't know if that answers her question or not, but that's what I got from everything that you were saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dude.
I don't want, okay, but I want to elaborate on what you just said because it's not just societal standards.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I am battling toxic me to take control of this human vessel.
Do you believe that some part of you still has to maintain all that shit you were taught?
My goal, so I'm not insane, guys. I'm just trying to phrase what's happening internally with me in ways for you guys to kind of understand in a picture, right? So there are not two versions of me inside battling with swords. I just feel like I am recognizing the older traits in me and I'm having to keep that shit at bay, right? Instead of going to default toxic behaviors. So past toxic behaviors are the second me that I'm battling. Does that make sense?
You're trying to unlearn the shit you've been taught.
Right. But does that make sense, what I just said?
It does.
Okay. So I'm going to answer your question. The goal in me is to unlearn it, but not forget it. I don't want to shame that part of me. I don't want to cut off and kill that part of me because it no longer serves me. Without that part of me, I wouldn't be who I am now.
Right.
So my goal is to tame it in a way, to kind of like a scared dog, right? We reel this dog in. This dog is now safe. We have to help this dog understand that she's safe. And then once she's recognized she's okay, the healed version of that is going to stay here. And then if I need to reflect on something or I'm not understanding a situation, I need to pull from my archive of experiences to try to relate, I can do that. But I don't want it to be something that is able to jerk and grab at the steering wheel whenever it feels like it can. Obedience training is happening.
You want to be in control.
Yes.
Well, that speaks to healing your traumas, overcoming the shortcomings of things. Have you ever heard the phrase, I hate that my child had, like the inner child, my younger self had to go through the things that it did, but I'm glad we did because we're here now?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with remembering where you came from.
Right.
As long as you don't let where you came from dictate where you're going.
Yeah.
So in that situation, I think it's I think I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
and it totally makes sense to me. But I keep falling back on you were taught that behavior, you can unlearn it.
Right.
You're teaching yourself new shit every day. You're
Yeah.
evolving as a woman. The person that you are is very different than the person I met. Like we just this last 2 years has been huge growth for both of us.
Yeah.
And things that we had conversations about in the beginning are no longer valid because we have new information. So like things have changed for us. And that's,
Right.
I think that's the goal.
I agree.
Okay.
I want to touch on that inner child thing real quick because you said that and I had a thought about that this morning. I was going to make a TikTok about it, but I'm just going to say it. So in all of this growth that I am doing and healing myself as a mother, I am healing, I am mothering the inner child of me. Does that make sense?
It does.
I was failed time and time again as a kid. I view 6-year-old me as a separate child from me now as an adult, right? So in my mind, when I think about my past self, I am able to see the child version of me separate from myself. And there is a recognition of self there, but there's also recognition of like, no one was your mother, so I will be your mother, right? There's a separation in a sense as well, because my life experience is not just my life experience. Thousands, millions of children, billions of children experience shit like that. Not to the extent that I experienced. Some experience shit beyond the extent that I did. But the human experience is one. Am I getting too far again? Is this too much?
No, I hate to meme it, but this is the saying that you become the adult that your inner child needed, that your
Right.
younger self needed. And that's, I mean, you seeing yourself separate is a disassociative thing.
I
Which
suppose so.
Is probably how you have learned to process your trauma. And that's a whole other thing, and probably something that a therapist should be diagnosing and not be getting into. But I've heard the same thing.
Yeah.
So, but I think that you are becoming the mom that you needed as a child, and that's why you do things the way that you do with your kids. It's just normal shit. It's the way that I am.
Right.
I don't want them to experience me as a stepfather the way that I experienced mine. So I get that. So for me, damn it, this thing keeps jumping. She said, Chris, when do you feel like you had become a man worthy of leadership? This is going to be really fucking arrogant, but I have always felt that way because I've been on my own since I was, a little teenage kid. I have been responsible for my own existence. I have always had the desire to be a leader of men. It's why I've excelled in business and management. And every time I've gotten a job, I've become more than just a worker. But I think that I have that instilled in me because I didn't have weak men in my life when I had men in my life as a child. At what point did you feel you were confident enough to lead your home and relationship in a healthy and harmonious way? When I accepted all of my shortcomings, all of my failures in the past, and realized that I was able to take accountability for what I can change and letting go of what I can't. I think that if you will never be a leader if it's always somebody else's fault. You can't be a leader if you want to throw shade and blame on everyone else. And it doesn't matter if it is actually somebody else's fault. If you were in charge, it's your fault. The accountability and what could I have done differently to give me a different outcome changes the way you perceive situations. That's my answer to that. And then how does leadership make you feel as a man? I don't think leadership makes me feel anything as a man. I think me being a man makes it so that I have a duty to lead. Because there's a difference between being a male and a man, or being a boy and a man.
I agree.
I think having the title of a man is much different than having a dingling. I think to be a man speaks on the ability to be a leader, to be able to protect and provide, to be able to do the things that other men are not willing to do. That last one's a hard one. It doesn't make me feel anything. Now, on my deathbed, If I'm laying in my deathbed and I'm able to look back and all of my life has been success in my marriage, and the kids are fucking grown and having families of their own, and there's grandbabies running around, and there's some sort of leave behind, whether it be property or money or whatever the case may be, at that point, I might be able to answer that question because I'll have ended my life with what it is to be a leadership and as a man because I've led my entire life. But until that comes, I don't know how that's going to make me feel.
Yeah.
Apple Fritter said, I've started getting to the place of being thankful for all of the actions and decisions I've gone through as they've led me to who I am today. That was one of the biggest awakenings for me. And that speaks to the last two questions that I answered, the second to the last question, because I am grateful for all the shit I went through. And a lot of it's ugly. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of that could have been handled better, right? There's things that I'm still paying for from my past that is, that's just the way things are going to go. But if I didn't go through those things, the man that I currently am wouldn't exist. Would I have be able to morph into what I am now? Is this going to propel me into the next version of who I am? As the seasons change, am I going to change with them? That shit matters to me. I am fucking thriving in life. I'm happy as a motherfucker, happier than I've ever been in life. And if I didn't go through all those hardships, would I be able to even understand this level of happiness? Would I have anything to compare it to?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? So I don't have animosity towards any of it. I had a lot of abuse. Physical and mental. Mm-hmm. I survived all of it. There are people out there who are going to get information from us that would not have survived what I went through. They would have succeeded in unaliving themselves. And maybe one of those people are going to listen to the podcast, recognize that there are better options, start correcting their behavior and fix their fucking life instead of becoming a statistic. Maybe my entire existence on this planet and the reason that I am still here is because that one person is going to be the person that cures cancer. Or maybe that one person is going to be the difference listening to our podcast and the difference between being an abusive father that abuses and molests their kid, right? I have no idea what God's plan is. I know that I fucking overcame all that shit and I'm here doing what God is calling me to do. And that's why I'm still fucking here. I believe that. So I'm grateful for the life that I've lived, even though there was a lot of ugliness to it. Melissa said, who do you all look up to when you strive to learn to be better and continue fixing toxic traits and thoughts and knee-jerk reactions? What are some of the resources for knee-jerk reactions for anger?
Okay, so my first thought is I don't look up to anybody because nobody is above me. Someone might be more intelligent than me or have more information than I do, but we're all equal as humans. People that I enjoy listening to expand my knowledge because they're just wealths of it. John Deloney. What?
You got it right.
Yeah, I did. I've been thinking about it a lot since last night, and I'm going to mess it up again in a few weeks. So John Deloney, Dr. Phil has a new podcast, and I know he's very controversial, but he's a very intelligent man. Jordan B. Peterson. This is less of self-growth and more of just getting information from what's happening in the world. And I like listening to Brett Cooper. I enjoy listening to Candace Owens. I think that they offer perspectives that I can digest that's not fully diluted by propaganda or other things.
I'm going to challenge your thought process.
Okay.
You said that that you don't look up to anyone. Is that how you worded that?
Yeah, look up.
Would you say that there are personality traits from those people that you do listen to that you aspire to have one day? For example, you have stated on the podcast that you would like to be able to articulate yourself like Jordan B. Peterson. Are there personality traits in those people that you admire? How about that? And
what's the definition of admire?
I would take that as look up to, aspire to be like.
I just don't like the phrasing look up to.
I have to look up the word admire now because my definition could be wrong, and I don't want to look like a dumbass.
Yeah, I don't like the phrasing look up to. I think the way things are said matters.
Okay. Regard, in parentheses, an object, quality, or person with respect or warm approval,
Okay.
or look at with pleasure. So if we removed look up to and add admire, with the actual definition, because you do look at them with respect and warm approval.
I wouldn't say warm approval. John Deloney, yeah, I like the way that he conducts himself with people. I think he has a very, just like a comfy human warmth when he talks to people. So I would say I would have a warm approval about him.
Would you want to have some of those personality traits?
The way he conducts himself?
This isn't a trick question, babe.
Right, I'm just trying to understand. Because I don't want to just answer without fully understanding. So,
Okay,
like, would I want to mimic or adapt that?
sure. That's a good way to word it. It has the same meaning to my brain.
I mean, yeah. I think it's less about the person who's doing it, though, and more about the trait itself.
Right, but the quality of character that those people have is not common.
Okay.
Those qualities are not common, which is why those people stand out. I'm going to use Jordan B. Peterson because I do admire Jordan B. Peterson and I would like to inherit some of his traits. His ability to actively think through situations and have his mind changed in the moment is something that I not only admire, I want that ability.
Okay.
I don't want to be so steadfast in my presumption of things that even if I'm wrong, I look like a fucking dumbass holding my ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to work through things the way that he works through things because I can watch him do it in the moment. He does it so much faster than I am. But I fucking love that and I respect that about him. And if I could have that personality trait, it would make me a better man.
Okay.
It would make me a more effective leader. And John Deloney, if I had the ability to have the compassion that he has, it would make me a better man and a better leader. So those are things that I wish I could absorb. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that statement. So when you say it that way, yeah. When I think of admire, I feel like I have to fully know that person to be able to admire them.
Well, you can admire qualities, personality traits, and not have to admire the entire person.
Okay.
You'll never know somebody completely to have that anyways. People are always going to have their demons.
Right.
But so there is a difference between look up to and what I laid out in your mind.
In my perspective, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When I envision someone saying I look up to them, it's, I don't know, admire just humanizes it, I guess.
Okay.
I appreciate the sentiment in it, right? Like looking up to somebody, but I don't want, mainly because people say that they look up to us, I don't want people to think that we are otherworldly.
I agree
or
with
above
that.
them.
Well, okay, so my perspective of that is I don't want people to think that we're at a level that they can't achieve.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that.
So if somebody sees a personality trait in you, let's say your compassion or your ability to cry, because I admire that about you and wish that I could absorb that, but I'm afraid, right? And that's me being completely transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid to cry the way that you cry. I admire the fuck out of it. And every time you do it, I'm like, God, I wish I could do that. Every fucking time. And one day I will, right?
I believe it.
But I'm working on it.
You're getting close. There were a couple of times where I thought it was going to happen and you kept going, but you're getting good, babe.
And I can actually point out times within the last week where that has happened. I'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
So my admiration of you does not put you on a level above me. You've just obtained the things that I want.
You aspire for.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with admiring that.
Yeah, so I agree with that phrasing. I like that. I don't like I guess I had a preconceived connotation of looking up to.
Okay.
Based on my experience of that phrasing with other people. I don't want people to think that what we have within ourselves or together is unobtainable.
Yeah. I don't think it's anything special. I think that we've just done more work than everyone else has.
Yeah, we just put more focus on it versus
right.
Consumerism or
we focused on what's important to us.
Yeah.
But I think everybody can have that. Okay. Second part of that question, because this is fucking way gone.
Okay.
and be better continuing fixing toxic traits and thoughts and knee-jerk reactions. What are some of the resources for knee-jerk reactions of anger?
What are some resources?
Yeah.
So when I hear resources, I think of like books.
Yeah, things that you can learn to work on.
Well, I can't think of any books specifically.
For
like when it
anger?
comes to anger. I think there's a book called Anger Management. By the same guy, Gary, I believe his name is, that wrote the 5 Love Languages. I might be incorrect on that. But that's a book that I started reading about anger. I didn't finish it completely, so I don't know if it's worth the read or not. When it comes to the resources that I did with what specifically when it comes to anger is YouTube videos. Online, like when I say online, I mean YouTube therapy. Therapist on TikTok sharing videos on how to emotionally regulate in the moment. And then me recognizing when I'm angry, I don't like feeling this way. I specifically with my children, I do not want them to remember me as an angry mom.
Right.
I think about that a lot. How are they going to remember this day?
That, how are they going to, I have a whole lot I'm going to go through right now, but that whole, how are they going to remember this day is, and you utilizing that is no different than me using my watch me to get shit done.
Yeah.
Right. That speaks to, Henry Rollins once said, I use my anger to get shit done. Rage Against the Machine said anger is a gift. Mm-hmm. I am somebody who have always used my anger as a tool to like, I got a chip on my shoulder and everybody's about to see this shit. Like, watch me fucking go, right?
Yeah.
I understand that I use my anger, that mask of anger, as a tool to hide my insecurities, my shortcomings, my inability to lead, the fact that I wasn't making money, that I couldn't hold a job, that I had to sell dope, like whatever it was, that was my anger. Understanding that my anger is a tool lets me know that it's a choice to utilize that anger. And if I go, okay, I'm getting angry, and I go, why am I getting angry? Oh, I'm feeling insecure right now.
Yeah, it's like a big red flashing light in my brain.
Right, why am I getting defensive? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the old school cop sirens. Yep.
Yeah.
Knowing that I get to assign meaning to the things that are happening in my life lets me dial things back to make me respond instead of react to situations. When I find myself reacting to things, that is my biggest red flag that something's not in line. And I need to retrace my steps mentally to figure out what's bothering me to address what's actually bothering me in the moment. And normally once I do that, whatever I was mad about's gone. Because the anger is the easy thing. Anger is easy. Anybody can get mad.
Right. Emotional control, though.
Figuring out what's really going on is where the task lies. And if you're looking for easy, you'll just always be easy. That's not rewarding.
Just primal emotions.
Yeah. Nothing worth having ever comes easily.
Let's be the higher beings our brains are made to function as. Like,
I'm thankful for the things my parents did or didn't do. It showed me what I do and don't want to be for myself and my future children. I think every person strives to be better than their parents. I both agree and disagree with that statement because I know a lot of people who are totally content living the exact same life that their parents live because it's easier than doing the work. But I also think that their idea of what their parents is still not flushed out in them to really get a grasp of it. When you're young, you hold a lot of animosity for all the shortcomings of your parents, especially in your 20s. Fuck them. I can't believe they did this. Da, 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 da. And as you get older, you realize, well, they were people and they were making decisions that was best for them in the moment. And sometimes it didn't align with what you wanted or what you felt was right. But in the long run, maybe it worked out, right? Like maybe, for example, you hated the fact that your dad was never home. Well, dad had to work 3 fucking jobs to keep a roof over your head and make sure that you had the things that you needed and you got to go to college.
he did what he had to do as a man.
Right. And as a young man, well, fuck, I don't know him. He wasn't here. But as an old man, you're like, damn, dad, I really appreciate everything you fucking did because I'm sure it really sucked now that I'm a dad to know that I have to fucking work instead of staying at home playing with my kid. Thank you for your sacrifice. It's perspective and what you assign meaning to. So,
yeah. I had a realization the other day in the car.
yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know what you just said that triggered this in me, but I'm just going to say it. On the podcast all the time, we say, if you miss them, just say that, I miss you. I remember the first time I said that to somebody who I held in high regard, and they met me with anger, and I never thought it was okay to talk about my emotions again.
Do you think that's why you feel the need to address when you are feeling clingy?
Maybe. Oh, I didn't think about that.
Because you do.
Oh, yeah, I do all the time. I feel bad about it.
Yeah, it's never just let me sit in your lap. It's always prefaced with, I'm feeling needy or clinging right now. Can I sit in your lap? It's never it's always announced. I didn't mean to make you cry. But do you think that has anything to do with it?
Probably.
Can you not do that moving forward then? And
Yeah.
just, I mean, obviously not right now because I'm hurt, but like,
Right.
I'd rather you just be like, hey, and sit in my lap versus.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I was just thinking of the aspect because there are still times where I have a really hard fucking time coming to you and talking about how I'm feeling. And it's been bothering me recently. Like, I don't understand why I'm having so many hurdles of talking to my husband. And I started tracing shit back, and that was the first moment I can remember where I verbalized what I now tell people to verbalize in their marriage instead of fighting. And I was like, holy shit. Like, as a 7 or 8-year-old, I was trying to communicate how I'm feeling, and it was just shut down.
Somebody else said, I will always remember I went to hug my dad. I guess I gave too many hugs, and after wanting more and more hugs, he eventually said, do you not get enough attention? Ouch. I still feel this to that day. Definitely not a great way to word that. I got to be honest, if one of the kids were that clingy, I would ask them what's going on. I'd want to talk to them about what they're feeling.
Because it would be abnormal for them to continuously go for hugs.
Right.
Yeah.
I also don't want the kids to think that it's not okay to hug me. I didn't like the physical contact as an adult. Looking back at my childhood was all negative. I got handshakes and the occasional hug, but like there was no non-inappropriate contact.
Yeah.
And I don't want the kids to express that. Like,
right.
I make it a point to pick them up and play with them and like roughhouse. And
our son's really getting into that roughhousing.
Yeah.
He was roughhousing me yesterday. And I was like, I'm not Pops. Stop it. You're going to push me over, kid. Quit.
You want to wrap up?
Yeah, we can wrap up. How was this conversation for Patreon? Was this productive for you guys?
I really enjoyed this. Thank you. This was one of the best videos I've watched. Thanks for answering my question. You're welcome. I definitely think that if we were to do a Dom sub conversation, you and I would have to establish ground rules for the talk before we did it, like to make that episode. Because we've made it a point to not get into that. Like we've made it a point to not have any conversations like that. We've expressed that we have that lifestyle and that's normally the end of it.
Then why did you do it today?
Because I didn't get into our life. That had nothing to do with us.
Okay.
That was answering the question about the ability for a man to lead and boosting up confidence. And
I guess I was under the impression that we were just not going to talk about that period. So.
Oh, well, I my bad. I didn't view it that way. I didn't view it as me talking about that. I viewed it as us having a conversation about what we were talking about and how what they asked tied into what we were talking about.
Right.
But I guess a lot of that is cognitive bias. Conversation came at a time when I really needed it for sure.
Well, I'm glad. I hope it helps.
I appreciate the conversation. I hope you both get needed rest and healing this weekend. We're going to have D&D, a lot of D&D this weekend, and maybe some Call of Duty today. At least with Call of Duty, I get to set the controller down and move. I don't have to stay in one position for microphones and cameras.
Yeah, you can do that.
It makes things easy. I'm crying from relief and joy and the weight lifted. All right, guys, with that being said, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.